Chapter 1401. Su Fong had suffered a great loss this time. His life force had reached the limit of what he could bear and became extremely weak. He was like an old man on his deathbed. The yang qi in his yang meridian was almost depleted. With such a huge consumption, he was on the verge of death. It was a great loss to his vitality. In such a state, he couldn't control the mirror to suppress the undead king. If the undead king didn't submit, he couldn't be absorbed into the true dragon world or the crucible transformation realm. If he forcefully absorbed it, the Tao artifact might be shattered by the undead king. Without the sky-shrouding nether coffin, you are a tiger without claws and teeth. How dare you be so arrogant? Su Fong shouted coldly. He could only use force. In the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace there was a sudden burst of energy. In addition to the 9 yang true qi, this energy also contained a trace of power that surpassed any world. It was the divine power that Su Fong had refined after swallowing the divine essence pills and king-grade elixirs. The origin sacred mirror suddenly emitted a red light. It was more than 10 times brighter than before. The red light enveloped the undead king, and the burning flames suddenly became much fiercer. This was the first time that Su Fong had controlled the mirror so freely. Ah! Stop! Stop! The undead king felt that he was about to be refined from the inside out. He finally stopped being so arrogant and screamed in despair. Su Fong had almost exhausted all of his yang qi. He looked like he was about to collapse, but he didn't have any intention of stopping. Swoosh! Swoosh! 3 Bloodman avatars flew out of the true dragon world and turned into Bloodwater. They merged with Su Fong's original body. Su Fong recovered some of his life force and continued to control the mirror to burn the undead king. Submit, this sovereign will submit to you. Hurry up and put away your transcendent artifact. Ah, this sovereign is about to be burned. If he continued to persist, he would be reduced to ashes. The undead sovereign finally gave in. Su Fong used the power of the origin sacred realm and merged the power of the yin-yang world to form a seal in the undead king's primordial spirit. At the same time, he condensed the power of the yin-yang world into shackles and injected it into the undead king's body. Just like that, the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's good friend, the powerful and evil undead monarch, was suppressed by Su Fong. He placed the undead monarch into the crucible transformation shackles and ignored it for the time being. He was also not afraid that it would betray him. Su Fong could not hold on any longer. He immediately entered the true dragon realm and turned into the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. He devoured pills, spiritual items, and resources to recover. This state of devouring pills continued for 3 months. Finally, the Yellow Spring Sea of blood ignited with the flames of life. From the bottom of the whirlpool of blood, a bloody figure condensed. Humph, now you understand that it's not that easy to be a savior, right? Law's reprimanding voice came from the blood jade. Then he sternly reprimanded, when a cultivator cultivates, especially a cultivator above the realm of immortals, on the path of cultivation, if there is a little unfavorable factor, it may lead to lifelong shackles. Even if you recover your vitality this time, it will affect your future cultivation. Even if you have a way to restore your life and a great fortune, you can't just waste it like that. Su Fong responded firmly, Law, I don't regret it at all. Forget it. In fact, I feel very relieved that you did this. At least you are not a ruthless overlord like Tranquility Emperor. And this time, you did gain something. You got the sky-hiding nether coffin, a peerless Taoist instrument. You also suppressed the undead monarch. Unfortunately, Tranquility Emperor escaped again. But from now on, he will be despised like a rat on the street in the big world. He will never be able to stand out. Whoosh! Fairy Xuanxin jumped out of the array on one side. Su Fong smiled bitterly and said, Xuanxin, are you also here to teach me a lesson? No. Fairy Xuanxin said, her eyes full of tenderness and pride. On the contrary, I am proud of you. You can be called a hero. You are the true hero who can support the heavens and earth. Those peerless overlords and unparalleled experts, even if they establish their own unparalleled hegemony and possess unparalleled strength, what are they when compared to you? What a great way to destroy the tip of a sword and turn the tide! The voice of the Lord of Five Poisons came. Then he, Li Haojie, Green Feather Emperor, Bai Ling, Zhu Emperor, and other big goblin appeared in Su Fang's cultivation dojo. Green Feather Emperor said, "Kid, I admire you more and more." "Not bad." Bai Ling said angrily, "Not good at all. You almost lost your life for an irrelevant person. It is not worth it. Don't do such a stupid thing in the future." Su Fang smiled. Feeling the concern of others, he felt warm in his heart. At this time, Dugumujian's voice came from outside the dojo. "Su Fang, can I meet you? Come." A passage separated from the array of the cultivation dojo. Dugumujian, Withered Immortal, Black Hawk Demon Monarch, Old Monster Zhu Tian, Palace Master of White Cloud Immortal Palace, and other immortal emperors came out of the passage one after another. Su Fang, Dugumujian cupped his fists. "What's the matter?" Dugumujian suddenly bowed deeply to Su Fang and said, "Dugumujian recognizes you as my master. From today onwards, I will follow master through fire and water without hesitation." The others behind him also cupped their fists and bowed. They said sincerely, "We are willing to follow master through fire and water without hesitation." As soon as they said that, a tsunami-like voice came from afar, "We are willing to follow master through fire and water without hesitation." Nearly 1,000,000 subordinates had all come to Su Fang's cultivation dojo. Hearing their voices of submission, Su Fang could not help but feel his blood boiling. This time, he had not risked his life for nothing. About 20 years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fang had swallowed a large number of pills, including a king-grade pill refined by old monster Zhu Tian, as well as a demonic hand of demon venerable ancient Ming that he had not completely swallowed. His vitality had finally recovered to about 10%. Moreover, his cultivation had gradually climbed from the normal state of the 8 Dao realm to the peak of the 8 Dao realm. From the large number of resources obtained from the Tranquility Emperor's mansion, he had obtained a lot of fire-element spiritual objects. Su Fang kept swallowing them, and his consumed yang energy had also recovered to its full state. It kept rushing towards the 36th meridian, advancing towards the 4th transformation of the 9 Suns 9 transformation. This was the great benefit of Su Fang's perfect physical body and the various abilities of his true body, as well as the various abilities brought about by his Dao body, fusing into his body. If it was other cultivators or even peak immortal emperors, it was almost impossible for them to recover to their peak state after losing so much vitality. Moreover, it would take tens of thousands of years, not to mention improving. However, the excessive consumption of vitality this time still brought a lot of hidden dangers to Su Fang. It would be difficult to eliminate it in a short time, and it might even affect his future cultivation. The undead king was still shackled in the crucible transformation realm. He had to leave him alone first. Such an evil and powerful resurrected immortal had to be subdued slowly. The sky-hiding nether coffin was also in the treasure mirror's space. Su Fang did not plan to refine it for the time being. "Master, please come out and take a look." On this day, Withered Rong Old Immortal, who was guarding the Emperor's land in Emperor Tranquility's mansion, interrupted Su Fang's cultivation state. At this time, Withered Rong Old Immortal had already submitted to Su Fang from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, he even changed the way he addressed him. "What's the matter? Master, you'll know when you come out and take a look. It's best to ask Mistress to come out as well." This Withered Rong Old Immortal is still so mysterious. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. His true body walked out of the yellow spring blood sea, leaving 4 blood clone bodies in the cultivation court. After advancing to the 8th Dao realm of the world immortal realm, Su Fang had the ability to create another blood clone. However, this clone was prepared for Fairy Xuanxin, who was about to go out and cultivate. Whoosh! Su Fang and Fairy Xuanxin flew out of the true dragon realm and walked out of the palace. Accompanied by withered Rong Old Immortal, Su Fang and Fairy Xuanxin crossed the sky and arrived above the Emperor's land. Divine light swept through his eyes. Su Fang showed a look of surprise and astonishment. On the streets of the Emperor's land, on the buildings, and in the sky there were crowds of people. They were all cultivators and commoners of the Emperor's land. Not only the Emperor's land. In the vast territory outside the Emperor's land, there were also crowds of people in the sky. There were also people that Su Fang could not sense. In Emperor Tranquility's mansion and Jiufang Empire, hundreds of millions of cultivators and commoners were all looking in the same direction. The Emperor's land. Although they could not see the person they wanted to see, they were all saying the same name in their hearts at the same time, Emperor Su. Not only the cultivators and commoners, but also countless big goblins showed up at the same time. Emperor Su. Emperor Empress. The crowd in the Emperor's land knelt on the ground together. The commoners prostrated themselves on the ground with tears in their eyes. They shouted in unison. All of their voices were from the bottom of their hearts. They were full of sincere respect and gratitude. Emperor Su. Emperor Empress. Outside the Emperor's land, on the vast territory of Emperor Tranquility's mansion, hundreds of millions of cultivators, commoners, monsters, and demons all knelt and shouted in unison. The sound was like a tsunami. It soared into the sky, shaking the sky and the whole immortal world. The mountains, rivers, forests, plants, and even the whole world shook violently, as if they were responding to the sound of the crowd. What is this? Su Fang was surprised and shocked. Emperor Empress. I've become the Emperor Empress? Fairy Xuanxin was even more dumbfounded. Although she had a cold personality, in the face of such a grand scene, her blood was boiling. Then, a great sense of pride welled up in her heart. In an instant, traces of the power of faith rushed toward Su Fang and Fairy Xuanxin. Everyone's power of faith was very weak. It was almost impossible to sense it. However, when hundreds of millions of cultivators, commoners, and monsters gathered together, it was 100 times, no, 10,000 times more vast than the largest ocean in the great world. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sea of power of faith rushed forward and drowned Su Fang and Fairy Xuanxin, who were caught off guard. The power of faith rushed into Su Fang's body and was absorbed by the golden core of origin. The golden core of origin had become the space where the Emperor Qi was condensed since he started cultivating the divine Emperor divine origin scripture in the small world. In an instant, the Emperor Qi in Su Fang's body rose at an astonishing speed and then condensed into the Emperor's seal. The golden core of origin, meridians, and flesh were all mysterious golden Emperor's seal. Buzz, the purple Qi Dharma spirit moved again. The mysterious purple light merged with the Emperor's seal and the golden core of origin. The golden core of origin, which was originally emitting a bright golden light, was dyed with a layer of mysterious purple and gold light. It was not just the golden core of origin. His flesh, meridians, and even the heaven and earth Tao Palace. Su Fang's entire aura contained a supreme domineering and dominating aura that was above the heavenly Tao. A supreme destiny enveloped Su Fang's body. His every move and every word contained supreme destiny. He made strong enemies submit, eliminated disasters, and turned misfortunes into blessings. The Emperor Qi condensed from the power of faith surged into the heaven and earth Tao Palace, filling the heaven and earth Tao Palace with an astonishing dominating aura and divine light. What was even more shocking was that the world seed was absorbing the Emperor Qi wantonly and undergoing earth-shaking changes. =R download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1402. Su Fang had saved the entire Emperor Ning's mansion and blessed the people in the Emperor Ning's mansion. After obtaining the power of faith, his imperial qi had reached its peak. After that, it became very easy for him to cultivate the Overlord Emperor's towering heaven technique. His achievements in the Tao of the Emperor were far beyond the Emperor Ning's reach. Ka. At this moment, there was a sudden movement in the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. What a big movement! Turned out to be the World Seed. After absorbing the vast and mighty Imperial True Qi, the lotus head shattered and turned into a dark golden cloud. In the middle of the cloud, there was a lotus seed-shaped object that was sizzling as it absorbed the dark golden cloud. It was the embryo of Su Fang's World Seed. When a cultivator cultivated, he would transform himself into a World Seed. The process of cultivation was the process of the birth of a World Seed. Su Fang's World Seed and the Yin-Yang Tao Wheel formed a great Tao, which was also the supreme heavenly Tao. They continued to absorb the essence of the great world to form their own World Seed. Thanks to Su Fang's constant stream of cultivators and the birth of the 35 Yang Meridians, the World Seed had absorbed a massive amount of imperial true energy from the faith power. Now it was free from the lotus seed pod, which meant that the World Seed had finally matured. What would Su Fang bring when the World Seed matured? First, it would absorb the power of the world and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Now, it was almost at the level of a six-paths Saint Celestial Realm Celestial Emperor. Moreover, its ability to activate various kinds of divine power, extract the essence of heaven and earth, and borrow the power of the stars had also increased. With the help of the ethereal true scripture and other divine abilities, Su Fang was now strong enough to fight a six-paths Saint Celestial Realm expert even without using a Tao artifact. Most importantly, the maturing of the World Seed meant that Su Fang had taken a big step forward in his World Seed's cultivation. From now on, he would have unlimited possibilities and limitless achievement. When Su Fang saved the Emperor Ning's mansion, he did not expect to get anything in return. He had only acted according to his heart. He did not expect that it would bring him such great benefit. It was too surprising. Suddenly, from Xuanxin's body, a roar came out and rushed into the sky. A white Xian Guang burst out from Fairy Xuanxin's body and condensed into a sparkling and translucent phantom of a divine bird. A wave of noble, holy, and divine might that made all birds submit to it, carrying a supreme majesty, enveloped the entire area. Seeing this, the cultivators and civilians in the Emperor's land were all in awe and wanted to submit. There were countless flying birds, including 3 demonic monarchs. They were so dense that they covered the sky. They circled around the sovereign land and bowed to Xian Xian Fairy. This scene was none other than the legendary 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. The ice phoenix is a divine bird, the king of all birds. After absorbing so much power of faith, Xuanxin's true form has become even stronger. In addition to being shocked and surprised, Su Fang was sincerely happy for Xuanxin Fairy. Xuanxin Fairy was also surprised and excited. She held Su Fang's hand and her eyes were full of joy and great happiness. The two stood side by side, like an emperor and empress inspecting their territory, which made the crowd burst into another round of cheers. At this time, someone in the crowd shouted, "We, the hundreds of millions of people in the Emperor Ning's mansion, are willing to submit to Emperor Su. From now on, there is no Emperor Ning's mansion in the macro world, only Emperor Su's mansion." Emperor Su's mansion. Hundreds of millions of cultivators and civilians shouted with excitement. Emperor Su's mansion. Su Fang felt that the Emperor's land under him and all the territories of the Emperor Ning's mansion, including mountains, rivers, forests, plants, and the whole natural world, had become very close to him. He even vaguely felt that he could control the power of the world freely without integrating it with the origin of the world. Su Fang was enlightened. The ruler of a part of the immortal world not only needed thunder, killing and conquering, but also needed to spread grace and rain to the common people. After thunder, he needed rain and dew, which was in line with the reincarnation of heaven and the key to cultivating the way of the emperor. Emperor Ning only knew how to kill, but he didn't know how to show grace to the common people. This was the reason why he couldn't break through to a higher level after cultivating the tyrannical emperor soaring the sky technique for millions of years after becoming the emperor immortal. Emperor Ning betrayed the Emperor Ning's mansion and was finally abandoned by the common people and the whole world. Su Fang saved the common people of the Emperor Ning's mansion and won the recognition of the common people and even the natural world. Since then, the Emperor Ning's mansion was renamed as Emperor Su's mansion. Su Fang controlled the first immortal world in the macro world. The name of Emperor Su spread across the immortal realm again. He turned the tide by himself, saved countless creatures in the Emperor Ning's mansion and suppressed the resurrected immortals. The fact was in front of them. Under the deliberate promotion of immortal Lang Shao of the Renjian Villa, the name of Emperor Su was no longer a synonym for evil and cruelty, but a halo of power and justice. Every immortal world was talking about the name of Su Fang and his miraculous deed. In the Yuanlu world, a rendezvous city on the Tsangshan mountain. In an inconspicuous restaurant in the rendezvous city, many immortals were talking about the destruction of Su Fang and the Emperor Ning's mansion. What these immortals were talking about was that Emperor Su, who was famous in the immortal realm, walked out of this rendezvous city when he ascended to the immortal realm. Emperor Su? Emperor Su's mansion? A man in gray was sitting in the corner. He looked ordinary and down and out. Hearing people's discussion, the man in gray's eyes emitted cold light of hatred and anger. Su Fang, you annexed my Emperor Ning's mansion. You and I can't live under the same sky. Su Fang, you risked your life to save a nobody who has nothing to do with you. If I catch all your relatives and friends, you will exchange your life for them. The man in gray gnashed his teeth and showed a ferocious smile. This man was Emperor Ning. In the Emperor Land, the 8 forces sent messengers to the Emperor Land with valuable gifts to apologize and resolve their grudges with Su Fang. Only the Hongxing Hall Chamber of Commerce and the Heavenly Dao Immortal Realm did not send anyone. For a time, the Emperor Land became very lively. Peerless experts rarely seen in a million years appeared in the Emperor Land, making it the center of the immortal realm. On this day, an uninvited guest came to the Emperor Land. The man was in a red robe, with 2 sword-like eyebrows and a domineering light in his eyes. It was Gong Yu, the young master of the Divine Palace. Gong Yu was not a simple man. Although he was one of the top 10 young masters, he was not like the Ziwei Crown Prince or Long Xiaojun. Gong Yu came from the mysterious Divine Palace family and had a close relationship with the boundless secular palace. Gong Yu sent Red Kite to take away Gong Yu from the boundless secular palace and almost killed Su Fang. Later, they reached an agreement that Su Fang would hand over the ethereal insight and they would go to the boundless secular palace hand in hand. However, when Su Fang returned from the lightning world, the agreed time of 100 years had already passed. The boundless secular palace was related to the origin of the purple Qi Dharma spirit. Su Fang had to go there. He had been trying to contact Gong Yu, but there was no news. Unexpectedly, Gong Yu appeared at this time. After they met, Su Fang found that Gong Yu was already at the peak of the immortal Emperor realm. When they met in the clear sky Myriad Scroll Gate, he was only at the 4th Dao realm of the world immortal realm. In such a short time, Su Fang was shocked by his progress. Su Fang speculated that Gong Yu's progress was not only because of his talent and aptitude, but also because of Gong Yu's Gong Yu. Gong Yu was not only the token of the boundless secular palace, but also a Dharma treasure. After fusing with Gong Yu, it could help a cultivator increase his cultivation speed by 10 times. In just a few hundred years, young Master Su Fang has already become an overlord of this immortal region. Gong Yu is truly filled with admiration. Gong Yu's attitude was already very different from before, and his tone was filled with heartfelt reverence. You don't have to be so polite, young Master Shengong. Young Master is from the Shengong clan. You must have obtained the inheritance of the boundless secular palace. How can I, the so-called Emperor Su, be worthy of your attention? Su Fang smiled faintly. Gong Yu smiled bitterly. Emperor Su, please don't mock me. With the help of all the power of the Divine Palace family, and the 3 palace feathers, I finally found the whereabouts of the boundless secular palace after going through untold hardships and losing several Divine Palace powerhouses. However, I'm really ashamed that I couldn't enter it and had to return in defeat. As soon as I came back, I heard about what happened to Emperor Su. That's why I immediately rushed over, hoping to fulfill our previous agreement. When Su Fang tried to inquire about the boundless secular palace from Gong Yu was tight-lipped and refused to say a word. Su Fang had to deal with immortal Emperor Tianong and take back the last small part of the purple Qi Dharma spirit. Naturally, he would not have time to go to the boundless secular palace. So Gong Yu left a rune talisman and waited for Su Fang to contact him later. Before Gong Yu left, Su Fang released Red Kite from the Yellow Spring Great Emperor bottle and gave it to Gong Yu to take away. After Red Kite was rescued by Su Fang in Demon Dawn Fortress, she had been imprisoned in the Yellow Spring Great Emperor bottle to prevent this woman from going back and reporting. At this time, Su Fang did not have to worry about anything. Any conspiracy would lose its effect in the face of absolute strength. Even if Gong Yu had some tricks up his sleeve, Su Fang was not afraid. Although Red Kite had not been tortured, she had lived in darkness for hundreds of years. Naturally, her complexion was very poor and she was even more in awe of Su Fang. After thanking Su Fang, Gong Yu took Red Kite and left the Emperor Land. Red Kite, you have suffered these years. Gong Yu's majestic voice came out. Red Kite hurriedly saluted. Red Kite is incompetent. She then said, Su Fang's growth is simply heaven-defying. Palace Lord must eliminate him as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will become a great enemy of Palace Lord in the future. Gong Yu looked at the Emperor Land and raised his eyebrows. No one can stop my rise. This immortal domain is mine. No one can take it away from me. However, Su Fang's power has already been established. It will be difficult for the Divine Palace clan to shake him. I can only wait until he is in the boundless secular palace, and then try to kill him. At that time, I will obtain everything he has. With the boundless secular palace's inheritance, it will only be a matter of time before I sweep through this immortal domain. Let's go. Gong Yu rolled up his red robe and took Red Kite with him as he broke through the sky. Next, it's time to deal with immortal Emperor Tianong and heavenly monarch Xian Shu. After sending Gong Yu away, Su Fang planned to deal with the heavenly Dao immortal world. However, a high-ranking member of the Tranquility Emperor's residence came to report a piece of news that completely disrupted Su Fang's plan. It even shocked Su Fang and made him panic. Boom! Su Fang's body burst out an astonishing qi. His eyes shone with terrifying light. You said Tranquility Emperor once sent someone to the small world to investigate my background? What I said is true. Tranquility Emperor did send someone to the small world to investigate Emperor Su's background. But as for what happened later, I don't know. This high-ranking member of the Tranquility Emperor's residence used to be a trusted subordinate of Tranquility Emperor. Under the pressure of Su Fang's terrifying qi, he knelt down on the ground with a plop. Given Tranquility Emperor's ruthlessness, what else can he not do? Tranquility Emperor wants to investigate my background. Naturally, he wants to threaten me with my family and friends. Damned Tranquility Emperor! If you dare to hurt my family and friends, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. A surge of murderous qi and hostility rose to the sky. =R download address. Mobile reading, Bibliographic Review. Chapter 1403. It was imperative to return to the small world. What was the purpose of ascending to the big world? In addition to improving his strength, there was another important purpose, which was to kill Seven-Star Child and Immortal Masterling Xian in the big world and eradicate the potential threat of the small world. Seven-Star Child and Immortal Masterling Xian had already been killed by Su Fang. Unexpectedly, Tranquility Emperor went to the small world. His family and friends in the 5 small worlds were in danger. How could Su Fang not be anxious? Go back to the small world and kill Tranquility Emperor. Green Feather Emperor, Bai Ling, Zhu Emperor and other big goblin from the small world, Lord of 5 Poisons and Li Haojie heard that Tranquility Emperor might sneak into the small world and threaten Su Fang's family and friends. They were all eager to go back to the small world. We must go back to the small world. But we can't let down our guard in the big world. Although Su Fang was anxious, he still arranged everything in an orderly manner. He left Dugumujian, Withered Immortal, Zhu Tian, Black Hawk Demon Monarch and other peerless experts in the Emperor's land, as well as his army in the Zhenlong world. He also left a Bloodman avatar in the Zhenlong world. Although Su Fang was famous in the big world, he still had many strong enemies, especially the Heavenly Law Immortal world, which was also in the Xianao big world. There was a powerful expert at the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm, Lord of Heaven Xian Shu. He didn't know what would happen when he returned to the small world. In order to prevent the Heavenly Law Immortal world from taking advantage of the situation, he had to be well prepared. At the same time, Xian Yintian also came back from the Clear Sky Thousand Rolling Door. He was responsible for the daily affairs of Emperor Su's mansion, making laws and comforting the people. Green Feather Emperor, Bai Ling and other big goblin who came to the big world with Su Fang from the small world, Li Haojie and Lord of 5 Poisons must go back. Xuanxin Fairy also gave up the plan to go out and practice. She followed Su Fang to the small world. Whoosh! After making the necessary arrangements, the Green Feather Emperor used his spatial and speed talents and left the Emperor's soil. With the Green Feather Emperor's current strength and talent, he was even more powerful than the Kuan demon back then. It took him less than 10 days to travel from the immortal Ao Great World to the Yuan Great World. It was a mountain ridge that was almost frozen in ice and everywhere was desolate. The immortal fog below was the Ascension Pool where Su Fang had entered the Great World from the small world. Su Fang, Fairy Xuanxin, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Haojie, Bai Ling, and the other big goblin were released from the Green Feather Emperor's internal space. Go! Su Fang led everyone straight to the Ascension Pool. Who are you? You entered the Ascension Pool. Could it be that you want to go to the lower worlds? The Ascension Pool's immortal formation has been sealed. No one is allowed to enter or leave. Immortals guarding the Ascension Pool stopped Su Fang outside the door leading to the Great World. What surprised Su Fang was that there were more than 1,000 immortals guarding the door leading to the Great World from the Ascension Pool. There was even a mystic immortal guarding the door. He did not know why. Get out of the way! Su Fang shouted coldly. He released a burst of divine aura, causing the immortals guarding the Ascension Pool to stagger forward and backward. Then Su Fang, Fairy Xuanxin, and the others barged into the door. The immortal formation shackling them collapsed layer by layer like it was made of paper. One of the immortals shouted, "Who is this person? How dare he barge into the Ascension Pool? Hurry and warn him!" The leading mystic immortal scolded, "Warn him? Are you an idiot? He can barge into the Ascension Pool without using any special abilities. How powerful is that? He is at least a feather immortal. He can kill us all with a wave of his hand." Another immortal said hesitantly, "That person, why does that person look so familiar?" He was immediately mocked. "What is your cultivation level? Are you qualified to know a feather immortal?" That immortal suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, "Ah, I remember now. This person, This person is Emperor Su. That's right. He is Emperor Su. I saw his immortal pattern portrait a few days ago. Emperor Su. All the immortals gasped. They were in awe and shock. Their backs were drenched in sweat. They entered the ascension pool. Su Fang could not help but raise his eyebrows. There were no less than 100,000 immortals gathered in the ascension pool. It was not hard to tell from their auras that they were all immortals from the lower realm who had ascended from different small worlds. Many spaces in the small worlds were connected to each other. Immortals could enter different ascension pools from different passages. Therefore, these immortals were not only from the Big Dipper realm. Many of them came from other star fields. When Su Fang came to the ascension pool, how many immortals were there? There were only a few hundred immortals. Now, there were more than 100,000 immortals. Su Fang was not surprised. What made Su Fang feel even more strange was that many of these immortals were at Feather Transformation Realm. There were very few at Flying Immortal Realm, and even fewer who had passed 3 Doomsday Tribulation. Whoosh, seeing Su Fang and the rest appear, these immortals were in a commotion and gathered towards them. Back down! Green Feather Emperor shouted coldly. How strong was Green Feather Emperor now? How could these immortals resist him? Immediately, he was shaken to the point that he retreated like a tide. Su Fang! You are Su Fang, Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Hao Jie, and Green Feather Emperor, ha ha ha! This small world is saved. Among the crowd, an ecstatic voice suddenly rang out. N_R. Su Fang and the rest took a closer look and saw that the person who spoke was a small old man in his 70s. It was Immortal Gu. Su Fang, you are indeed the overlord of 5 small worlds, Su Fang. The immortals exclaimed, followed by a burst of ecstasy, as if their savior had arrived. These were all immortals from Heaven Dipper Realm. Immortal Gu, why are you here? Su Fang activated a force of the world and brought Immortal Gu to his side. He was pleasantly surprised. Immortal Gu was also very excited. He said anxiously, I was about to enter the small world to find you. I have been waiting here for 100 years. I thought I would never see you again in this life. Quick, go back and save them. Su Fang and the rest were shocked. Had Tranquility Emperor entered the human sovereign world? But the timing was not right. Immortal Gu, speak slowly. Su Fang shot out a Xian Guang, enveloping Immortal Gu and sending Yang Qi into his body. Immortal Spirit Qi could not be absorbed in the Ascension Pool. Immortal Gu was like other Immortal Gu cultivators, he was almost at the end of his life. How shocking was Su Fang's Yang Qi! In just a dozen breaths of time, Immortal Gu became spirited again. Venerable Gu organized his thoughts before speaking slowly. It turned out that these years, the small world had undergone a great change. After the 3rd evil sun rose to the sky, the evil power of the evil sun filled heaven and earth. Not only the small world was affected, but the small world was also affected. Moreover, the effect was even more shocking than the large world. Why was this? Because the large world and the small world had to bear the same amount of death Qi and evil Qi. The large world's immortal spirit Qi was higher than the small world's natural spirit Qi. Thus, the small world's suppression was not as severe. But the small world was different. The natural spirit Qi of heaven and earth was suppressed to an astonishing level. Some places even showed signs of withering, all living beings withered and died. Cultivators' cultivation was also shackled. Not only did their cultivation speed become very slow, there were even cases of their cultivation realm falling continuously. This was not the most serious problem. Affected by the evil sun's power, large numbers of sealed ancient demons and evil path experts broke out of their seals. Countless cultivators and experts who had died long ago also revived. The number was simply incalculable. Some big goblin also fell into a frenzy. At first, human cultivators could still form an army to wipe them out. But later, some ancient demons and evil path experts who broke out of their seals, as well as resurrected experts who had gained madness and evil consciousness after devouring cultivators, gathered the resurrected cultivators, demons, and Big Goblin and attacked the human world crazily. Cities were destroyed one after another. Empires created by humans were destroyed one after another. Eventually, even the small worlds were devoured by the resurrected cultivator army and turned into wastelands. True Dragon World, Heavenly Light World, even the incomparably prosperous Spirit Mist World fell in just a few hundred years and became the territory of the resurrected cultivators. The world also turned into wasteland. Hearing this, Su Fong and the others were shocked, their faces turned pale. Lord of Five Poisons hurriedly asked, Spirit Mist World also turned into wastelands, what about Fertile Continent? Venerable Gu said, Fertile Continent was also destroyed by the resurrected cultivator army. The Lord of Fertile Continent escaped to our primordial God world, and luckily escaped. How are the 5 small worlds now? This was the matter Su Fong and the others were most concerned about. Back then, Su Fong spent a lot of effort to form the barriers of the 5 small worlds. Not only did each small world have its own independent world barrier, it also connected the world barriers of the 5 small worlds together. Moreover, the 5 small worlds had countless experts and powerful Tao artifacts. They withstood the attacks of the resurrected cultivator army. However, this was not a long-term solution, we would be trapped to death sooner or later. Thus, the experts helped me break out of the encirclement of the resurrected cultivator army and planned to ascend to the immortal world to find you in the great world. When I left, the 5 small worlds were still safe and sound. Now that 100 years have passed, I wonder what the situation is like. Venerable Gu explained the situation of the small worlds in one breath. Su Fong and the others' mood suddenly became heavy. Even Tranquility Emperor's matter was somewhat diluted. The situation that Undead Monarch mentioned, where heaven was about to die and the 3 worlds were about to be destroyed, was already happening in the small world. This was the small worlds now. What would happen next? Why are you and so many people trapped here? Su Fong asked again. Venerable Gu smiled bitterly. I came to the Ascension Pool through the Ascension Passage, only then did I know that some resurrected experts had infiltrated the Ascension Pool and infiltrated the Great World. Thus, the Ascension Pool's entrance to the Great World was closed. We are all trapped here and will die here sooner or later. Can you think of a way to reopen the entrance? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Gazes filled with anticipation landed on Su Fong. There were also some who did not have much hope for Su Fong. After all, how many years had it been since Su Fong ascended to the Great World? Although he was the overlord of the Star River in the small worlds, ascending to the Great World was nothing. Closing the entrance was a decision made by the powerful forces in the immortal world. He was just an immortal who had ascended to the Great World for only a few hundred years. What could he change? To be able to appear here, who knew how much effort he had spent? He might even have bribed the immortals outside to enter the Ascension Pool. Oh? Yuan Fortune Great World dares to close the entrance? A cold glint was emitted from Su Fong's eyes. Looking at the edge of the Ascension Pool, Su Fong said in a majestic voice, Open the entrance, otherwise, I, Su Fong, will destroy Yuan Fortune Great World. Saying that he would destroy a great world, how arrogant and domineering! Many of the Ascenders were dumbfounded. They wondered if Su Fong had gone mad. He actually dared to say such arrogant words. =_our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1404. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Su Fong's domineering voice had just ended when the 1,000 cultivators guarding the door passed through the immortal formation and appeared in the Ascension Pool. It's over, Su Fong spoke arrogantly and angered the immortals. Not only will he suffer, we will suffer as well. This was what most of the Ascenders thought. Venerable Gu was also badly frightened. He quickly transmitted to Su Fang. Su Fang, quickly think of a way to appease these immortals, give them some Tao artifacts or other treasures. At the next moment, the 1,000 immortals cupped their fists and bowed. Greetings to Emperor Su. The rumbling sound reverberated in the ascension pool, causing the minds of many ascenders to buzz. What? Emperor Su? Who is Emperor Su? The 100,000 ascenders were all dumbfounded. The leading mystic immortal cupped his fists towards Su Fang and said respectfully, I did not know Emperor Su was here, please forgive us for our offense. Emperor Su. Su Fang is Emperor Su? What is Emperor Su's title? Only the legendary great emperors, the peerless powerhouses who rule over an entire immortal realm, would have the title of emperor after their surname. Su Fang is actually a great emperor? How many years has it been since he ascended to the great world? He has already become an immortal emperor expert. The ascenders had completely turned into ice sculptures. There were also some who rubbed their eyes hard, unable to believe that everything they saw was real. Venerable Gu pinched his thigh. He grimaced in pain. Only then did he believe that he was not dreaming. Su Fang said, It is important to guard against the evil revivers, but what is the reason for sealing the door and trapping all the ascenders here? Open the door. Yes, I will open the door and personally send all the ascenders to Ascension City. The mystic immortal nodded and promised. He was trembling in fear. How could these immortals not be afraid? In the past few hundred years, Prince Ning's mansion had been expanding its influence. Many immortal realms in the Yuan Lu Great World had fallen under their control. The powerful Emperor Ning's mansion had become a thing of the past. Emperor Ning was like a stray dog, and it was Emperor Su who caused the destruction of Emperor Ning's mansion. If they provoked Emperor Su, not only would the immortals guarding the Ascension Pool, but the world of immortals they resided in would also face destruction. Su Fang continued, In addition, help me spread the news through the Chamber of Commerce to all major worlds. All Ascension Pools in the immortal world are not allowed to close their doors. Cultivators ascending from the lower realm are all allowed to enter. Yes, I will do as you say. All the ascenders were pleasantly surprised. Now they finally had a chance to make a name for themselves, and they were filled with gratitude towards Su Fang. Not only them, but countless cultivators who had ascended to the great world had their fates completely changed because of Su Fang's words. Whoosh! Su Fang took out a supreme-grade flying sword and a storage ring, and threw them to the Xian Immortal. This is your reward. There are 10 million low-grade immortal essence elixirs in the storage ring. Distribute them to the ascenders later. The Xian Immortal was wild with joy. He held the flying sword with both hands, and his eyes shone with excitement. At the same time, don't let go of those evil resurrected cultivators who want to sneak into the great world. Su Fang reminded again. A divine light flashed in his eyes, and he glanced at all the ascenders. Then, a divine power of the world was released, enveloping hundreds of thousands of ascenders. Su Fang reached out and grabbed in the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 500 ascenders were directly sent to Su Fang by an irresistible force. A divine power of the fire element suddenly descended. The aura field of these ascenders was shattered, and a gust of death chi spread out from them. These people were actually resurrected cultivators. It was unknown what spell they used, but their aura was concealed, and others could not detect them at all. A bunch of corpses that have been dead for many years, and you want to fool me, Su Fang? Su Fang shouted coldly. The divine power of the fire element suddenly increased, and those resurrected cultivators disguised as ascenders were immediately incinerated into ashes. Those who could break free from the world's shackles and come to the Ascension Pool through the Ascension Passage were all Ascension Immortals. They were considered top experts in the great world, but they were killed by Su Fang with a raise of his hand. Hundreds of thousands of ascenders were extremely shocked. Let's go. Su Fang brought Venerable Gu Master, Green Feather Monarch, and the others, and flew towards the Ascension Passage. Whoosh! Su Fang and the others continued to pass through the condensed heavenly path. They came to the area that was like paste, and finally arrived at the peak of the small world's starry sky. The starry sky shackles that were almost fatal to lower realm cultivators were nothing to them. Passing through the empty and scattered star field, everyone stood on the back of Green Feather Emperor, who had transformed into a giant green rock, and flew through the starry sky at lightning speed. Heavenly Dipper Domain has completely turned into a wasteland equals N_R. Heavenly Dipper Domain was at the edge of this star field. It was originally very desolate, but now it had completely turned into a land of death. The spirit chi was dried up and there were no signs of life. There was only a strong aura of death, hostility, and sporadic resurrected cultivators flying on the ground and in the sky. Su Fang and the others' hearts became very heavy. Without stopping for a moment, Green Feather Emperor directly used his spatial ability to travel through the void. In less than 5 days, he arrived near the 5 Great Small World. Seeing this scene, Su Fangda was shocked. The others were also shocked and then incomparably furious. In the star field, the 5 Great Small Worlds formed a circle and floated together. In the periphery of the Beichen zone, there were countless resurrected cultivators who were crazily attacking the world's barrier. There were too many resurrected cultivators. When they gathered together, it was like a large nebula surrounding the Beichen zone. With so many resurrected cultivators, the aura of death, hostility, and evil converged into a monstrous evil aura. In addition to the aura of the 3 rounds of evil yang powder, the galaxy lost its former glory. The resurrected cultivators had been attacking the Beichen zone for many years, causing the world's barrier outside the Beichen zone to be exhausted to the extreme. It was to the point that it could be broken at any time. If Su Fang came a few decades later, the world's barrier would be completely broken without any suspense, and the other small worlds would not be saved. Hateful resurrected cultivators, I'm going to kill all of you! Green Feather Emperor and the other big goblin gritted their teeth. The Lord of 5 Poisons and Li Haojie were also full of murderous intent. When they were about to rush over, Su Fang suddenly stopped them. Wait, let me see where Tranquility Emperor is. If Tranquility Emperor came to the small worlds, he would definitely come for Su Fang's family, friends, and subordinate. Naturally, he would enter the 5 small worlds. Besides, this was the only place in the small worlds where Tranquility Emperor could stay. Buzz Su Fang operated the life-shortening skill with the power of the Great Perfection and the power of the World Seed. In a split second, Su Fang felt that he had become one with the galaxy. With the birth of the World Seed, Su Fang's sensing ability, divine might, and strength had all reached a terrifying level that was more than 10 times his own strength, let alone in the small world, but even in the big world. When Su Fang activated the power of the World Seed, his senses, divine might, and strength had all reached a terrifying level that was more than 10 times his own strength. Buzz, the Tao of Destiny flashed in the divine aperture and condensed into the figure of Tranquility Emperor. At the same time, he also sensed his father Su Yaotian, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, Lan Haiqing, Xiao Mei'er, and the top masters in the 5 small worlds. Tranquility Emperor has indeed come to the small worlds and is now in the mortal Emperor world. He has shackled my father and thousands of masters. Su Fang's heart was in his throat and his eyes were full of killing intent. What should we do? Cyan Feather Emperor and the others were extremely anxious. Cyan Feather Emperor, you guys solve the crisis in the 5 small worlds first and defeat the resurrected cultivators. I will go directly to the mortal Emperor world and try to rescue my father and the others. Su Fang said decisively. The Lord of 5 Poisons said, Tranquility Emperor has set a trap for you. If you go there now, you will be walking into the trap. When Tranquility Emperor's strength and power were at his peak, he was defeated by me. Now, he is just a stray dog. Don't worry. This time, he can't escape from me. He can't even hurt my father and the others," Su Fang said majestically with a resolute look in his eyes. Su Fang released the immortal devil monster, Gue Gue, the giant gorilla demon, and the resurrected cultivators and ancient demons from the crucible transformation world in his body. This time, they were also brought out by Su Fang and placed in the crucible transformation world. Gue Gue and the giant gluttonous demon would accompany Xuanxin Fairy, the Green Feather Emperor, the 5 Venom Sect Master, and the others to kill the resurrected cultivators. With the current strength of the Green Feather Emperor, the 5 Venom Sect Master, and Li Haojie, no matter how powerful the resurrected cultivators in the small worlds were, they could only be crushed. However, the number of resurrected cultivators was too great. The more power they had, the less pressure they would face. "Let's go." Su Fang and the immortal devil monster went straight to the mortal emperor world. Fairy Xuanxin, Cyan Feather Emperor, and the others went to the periphery of the Beichen zone. The mortal emperor world. In the central palace of the only city in the world. Inside the palace, thousands of people were sitting on the ground with their legs crossed. Su Yaotian, Su Zhenhua, Lan Haiqing, the first elder Heizun, and other giants were sitting there. All of them looked haggard with anxiety and worry in their eyes. Right above them, a cultivator in white was sitting majestically. His aura was empty, but it was full of supreme dominance and majesty, as if he didn't belong to the small worlds. Tranquility Emperor. Although Tranquility Emperor was seriously injured and his strength had dropped to the level of 6 paths of Saint Immortal, and the immortals in the upper realm were shackled in the worldlet, Tranquility Emperor was still a supreme existence in the worldlet. Just like the way of heaven, it was a piece of cake for him to subdue the experts from the 5 worldlets. Because the giants in the small worlds were shackled by Tranquility Emperor, the Beichen zone was in danger of being attacked by the resurrected cultivators at any time. "Your base is going to become a wasteland. Su Fang, where are you?" "Ha ha!" Tranquility Emperor burst into laughter. His laughter was full of pleasure and incomparable craziness. At this time, Su Yaotian suddenly said, "Even if you hate Su Fang so much, you're still a peerless expert from the small worlds. Why do you have to vent your anger on the cultivators in the lower world and the common people? I'm Su Fang's father. Let the others go and I'll be your hostage. I spent millions of years to build my base, but Su Fang took it away by force. I'll pay him back 10 times, no, 100 times the pain I suffered. I'll let Su Fang have a taste of what he built in the small world. I'll destroy it bit by bit, including you." Tranquility Emperor gnashed his teeth with a ferocious face. Su Yaotian said proudly, "My son, who ascended to the small worlds less than 1,000 years ago, defeated an immortal emperor and took over his territory. I'm proud of him. Why should I regret to die? But you, as a mighty figure in the immortal realm, actually did such a despicable thing. Shame on you." Being ridiculed by a cultivator in the lower world, Tranquility Emperor's eyes flashed with a cold light. A strand of divine power covered Su Yaotian. =R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1405. Li Ziqing also laughed. Su Fang is not bad. He has been in the macro world for only a few years and has forced an immortal emperor to flee to the micro world like a dog. If I had known this, I would have gone to the macro world with him. Maybe I would have become an immortal emperor now. Tranquility Emperor raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Do you all want to die?" Su Zhenhua sneered, "My master forced you into a corner and forced you to threaten him in this way. Kill us all. What can you use as a shield? Do you dare to kill us all?" Everyone in the hall laughed at him. Even Su Fang's subordinates were so domineering that they didn't care about the peerless immortal emperor in the macro world. Tranquility Emperor, a peerless immortal emperor who had shocked the macro world for millions of years, was ridiculed by a group of prisoners from the mortal world. he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. Tranquility Emperor said coldly, I know you are trying to provoke me in this way. I want to kill you so that Su Fang won't hurt you. You're right. I don't dare to kill all of you, but I can kill some of you and leave some important ones alive. The divine light in his eyes fell on Lan Haiqing and Xiao Mei. Tranquility Emperor smiled ferociously. As far as I know, Su Fang has 2 confidants in the micro-world. They must be you too, right? If I kill all of you, Su Fang will definitely be in so much pain that he will wish he was dead. Tranquility Emperor raised his hand and was about to kill Lan Haiqing and Xiao Mei. At this time, an amazing divine power of the world shrouded the whole hall with raging fire. In an instant, the whole world was covered with fire. Tranquility Emperor felt that the whole world was rejecting him and even shackling him. When the fire fell on him, he felt that his whole body, including his primordial spirit, was hot and dry. He also felt that there was something wrong with his primordial spirit. This fire can confuse my primordial spirit. Tranquility Emperor became alert at once. Su Fang, you're really fast. However, you're still far from being able to use such petty tricks to deal with me. Tranquility Emperor sneered and burst out a stream of Emperor's divine power to shatter the shackles of the world around him, including the fire. At the same time, he carefully checked the primordial spirit and found nothing abnormal. Then Tranquility Emperor made a handprint to activate the formation he had set up in the hall. The array formation was connected to the shackles in the bodies of Su Yaotian and the others. As long as the array formation was slightly activated, everyone would immediately die. Emperor Ning. Whoosh. Su Fang appeared outside the main hall. The flaming cloud wings on his back were like the wings of a real giant bird. Flaming clouds swirled around him, and the fiery light was dazzling, making him look like a god of fire. Su Fang equals N_1. Divine light burst out from their eyes. Even though they were several hundred zhang apart, they collided and sent sparks flying. The entire mortal emperor world shook violently. Su Fang. Master. Seeing the familiar figure, Su Yaotian and the others were pleasantly surprised. But then they became anxious. Su Yaotian shouted, Why did you come back? Don't worry about us. Leave now. Su Fang's eyes fell on his father. Then he bowed deeply. Father, I'm sorry for making you suffer. Su Yaotian felt warm in his heart. But then he scolded loudly, I'm just a piece of trash. Don't worry about me if I die. If you don't leave now, don't blame me for not caring about our father-son relationship. What a good father-son relationship. Even I am touched. Tranquility Emperor laughed complacently. Su Fang looked at Tranquility Emperor. What do you want? What do I want? Ha ha. You took everything away from me. Now I, a peerless immortal emperor who had been famous for millions of years, have become a stray dog. There is no place for me to stay in this big world. What do you think I want? Tranquility Emperor laughed crazily like a mad dog who was forced into a corner. Then he said, Last time in Emperor Ning's mansion, you saved Wang Yuzhen with your supreme magic power. This time, I won't make the same mistake again. As long as I use my mind, the surrounding array will be activated. By then, everyone will be killed. Last time, you were able to save Wang Yuzhen with your supreme divine ability. I don't believe that you'll be able to save over 1,000 people this time. Su Fang said blandly, It's true that I can't save so many people at the same time. Fine. Let go of my family and friends. I can return everything in Emperor Ning's mansion to you. I can also promise that I won't do you any harm in the future. You can continue to be the supreme emperor of Ning. Tranquility Emperor said fiercely, Now my reputation has been ruined by you. Even if I take back the mansion, how can I convince the others? What else do you want? You can ask for anything. I want you to kneel down. Tranquility Emperor suddenly flicked out 2 Xian Guang and hit Su Fang's knees respectively. It was not difficult for Su Fang to dodge Tranquility Emperor's attack. However, he didn't dodge and just let the Xian Guang hit him. His legs, which were sealed, lost their senses at once. He knelt down on the ground with a plop. Emperor Su, who is famous in the big world, aren't you very majestic? Why are you kneeling down in front of me? Tranquility Emperor burst into laughter. His voice shook the sky. He was very proud. Su Fang. Su Yao was so angry that his eyes were about to burst into flames. The others also roared angrily. Su Fang looked at Tranquility Emperor. Su Fang said coldly, "Are you satisfied now? Satisfied? This emperor's hatred and anger can burn the heavens. Just this alone is far from enough equals, N_R. Puff, 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 puff." Tranquility Emperor flicked out more than 10 Xian Guang. They were like sharp swords and left many bloody holes on Su Fang's body. In an instant, Su Fang was covered with blood. He looked like a bloody man. "Silly boy, why don't you go?" Blood oozed out of Su Yaotian's eyes. "Su Fang, go!" Lan Haiqing cried and shouted. The others were all shocked and angry. But there was nothing they could do. Su Fang said coldly, "Are you done? I still want the same conditions. I'll give the mansion back to you and promise that I'll never be your enemy again. If you still don't think it's enough, you can make more demands. But you have to let them go first." "Su Fang, do you think I'm an idiot? After I let them go, how can I guarantee my safety and deal with your revenge? What's the use of your so-called guarantee? What else do you want? If you want to let them go, open your divine apertures and your body. Let me form a seal with the incantation of the Overlord and shackle your primordial spirit. From now on, you'll be my slave and obey my orders." Hearing Tranquility Emperor's words, Su Yaotian and the others all shouted angrily, "Su Fang, you can't agree." However, Su Fang seemed to have not heard them. He said decisively, "Okay." Tranquility Emperor didn't expect that Su Fang would be so straightforward. Tranquility Emperor frowned. After thinking for a while, he said, "Not only him, but all your subordinates will be shackled by my seal and serve me." Okay. Tranquility Emperor immediately performed the incantation of the Overlord and formed a seal seed. Then, he put it into Su Fang's divine apertures and body. Su Fang didn't resist. He opened his divine apertures and body and let Tranquility Emperor shackle his primordial spirit and body. Su Yaotian and the others all closed their eyes. They were in great pain. "Su Fang, you never imagined that you would one day fall into my hands and become my slave, allowing me to do whatever I want to you." Ha ha ha! Tranquility Emperor was sure that Su Fang was shackled by him. As long as he operated the incantation of the Overlord, he could easily suppress Su Fang or even kill him. Then, he felt relieved and couldn't help laughing happily. Su Fang said indifferently, "Can you let them go now? Don't worry. I promise I won't hurt them. And give me all your Taoist weapons, especially the one you used to suppress the dead king." Tranquility Emperor's eyes were full of greed and excitement. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Su Fang took out all the Taoist weapons, including the Void Dust Cauldron, Underworld Emperor's Bottle, Demonic Blood Plate, Demon Sealing Emperor's Heaven Seal, Thunder Punishment Cauldron, Underworld Samsara Sword, Underworld Thunder Archive, and Origin Divine Mirror. Seeing so many Taoist weapons, Tranquility Emperor's breath suddenly became rapid. His eyes were shining with vigor. "Your peerless Tao weapons are all mine. With these Tao weapons, I will not only be able to dominate this immortal domain, I will also be able to roam freely in all the great worlds." With a wave of his hand, all the Taoist weapons fell into Tranquility Emperor's hands. At this moment, Tranquility Emperor was so excited that his soul almost left his body. Suddenly Su Fang's sarcastic voice came, "Tranquility Emperor, are you satisfied now? It's time for you to wake up from your sweet dream." The voice came from behind Tranquility Emperor, instead of outside the hall. Tranquility Emperor was stunned. Then his heart skipped a beat. Oh no! He was indeed a peerless powerhouse in the 7 paths of Saint Immortal Realm. The moment he realized something was wrong, he reacted immediately. Tyrant Emperor's seal of incantation, activate. Boom! Su Fang, who was outside the main hall, suddenly exploded, turning into a burst of fiery light. It was not Su Fang at all. It was Su Fang who used the special ability of illusionary starfire to create an illusion with the flame. Turned out that when Su Fang activated the illusionary fire cloud, he also activated the power of the world. The moment the flame covered the hall, he created an illusion. If they were in other places, Tranquility Emperor would never be able to deceive him or affect his primordial spirit with his powerful strength. But this was the human emperor's world, Su Fang's world. Besides, Su Fang's emperor's body of fire cloud had matured. The power of illusionary star fire had also improved to a higher level. In the human emperor's world, even Tranquility Emperor was affected by the illusion created by the power of the world. The weird thing about illusionary starfire was that it could affect people's consciousness with the flame and create layers of illusion. When Tranquility Emperor firmly believed that he had broken Su Fang's magic, he fell into the second layer of illusion at the same time. Su Fang was almost killed by this weird ability of illusionary starfire. If his second primordial spirit hadn't merged the 5 mark of night charm in time, he would have been killed. This time, Su Fang used this ability to deal with Tranquility Emperor. Tranquility Emperor had been acting like a clown for a long time and didn't realize it until now. Not only Tranquility Emperor, but also Su Yaotian and the others fell into the illusion without realizing it. However, Su Fang and the monster of Immortal and Devil hid their aura with the life-shortening skill of heaven and earth and came into the hall secretly. I was fooled, Tranquility Emperor realized it at once. Swish! A black xianguang suddenly broke through the air and hit the back of Tranquility Emperor's head. It attacked his primordial spirit fiercely towards his divine aperture ocean. Tranquility Emperor's divine aperture ocean was shaking and his defense was almost broken down. He couldn't spare any attention to activate the formation. At the same time, suddenly, a silent thunder came from the unseen world. Although it was silent, Tranquility Emperor had a feeling that this silent thunder was not only going to destroy his body and primordial spirit, but also everything related to his fate and karma would be wiped out as if he had never appeared in the world. The Thunder of Fate == our download address, mobile reading, bibliography. Chapter 1406. Destiny Creation, Master of Heaven's Design, Heaven punishes me, I defy Heaven's design. Be Destiny Creation, Master of Heaven's Design, bury me, I break earth. Thunder of Destiny. It was the power of Heaven's punishment and the power of life-shortening technique, which could destroy the destiny of others. In order to save Su Yaotian, his friends, and his subordinates, Su Fang didn't activate the Xianming Thunder Scroll with the Thunder of Destiny. Instead, he used the Thunder of Destiny to destroy the destiny of Tranquility Emperor directly. A supernatural power that can destroy everything in my destiny. Tranquility Emperor had been through countless life and death situations in his life. However, he had never encountered such a horrible crisis. What an amazing supernatural power it was to be able to destroy one's destiny and erase everything that was related to one's destiny. Everyone was afraid of death. However, what was more horrible than death was to erase all traces of one's life. At the moment of life and death, Tranquility Emperor burst out his dominating will to fight against the Thunder of Destiny. Boom! 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 Tranquility Emperor found that even though his dominating will was bombarded by Su Fang's Tao of Destiny, it was shattered layer by layer and turned into ashes. At the same time, the second primordial spirit kept bursting out the power of the primordial spirit, which caused a great impact on Tranquility Emperor's primordial spirit and suppressed it to the extreme. Although it sounded like a long time, the battle of life and death ended in an instant. Tranquility Emperor's expression became dull like a dead man. His young immortal, primordial spirit and consciousness were all destroyed by the thunder of destiny. There was still a look of unwillingness and disbelief on his face. The Supreme Tranquility Emperor, who was famous in the big world, died just like that. However, his body was still intact. It was mainly because Su Fang's cultivation wasn't high enough to exert the full power of the thunder of destiny. If he exerted the full power of the thunder of destiny, not only would his primordial spirit and body turn into ashes, but also his name, his past experiences, and even the memories about him would all be erased by the thunder of destiny. That was the horror of the supreme cultivation method of destiny, life-shortening technique. However, although this ability was powerful, the price one had to pay after using it was also quite heavy. Taking the place of the heavenly Tao to punish others was naturally not something that ordinary immortals could bear. Fortunately, Su Fang's cultivation was far from what it had been in the past. Furthermore, he had 35 yang veins and was about to enter the fourth transformation of the 9 yang 9 transformations. Otherwise, his life force would have been instantly sucked dry. At this time, Su Fang was in his 50s. His life force had also become very weak, and his hair had turned white. However, it was worth it to get rid of Tranquility Emperor and save his family and friends at the same time. Su Yaotian and the others finally managed to break free from the illusion created by Su Fang's 1,000 illusion starfire with great difficulty. It was as if they had just had a nightmare. Su Fang, is it really you? Am I dreaming? Su Yaotian asked in disbelief. Su Fang said excitedly, Father, of course it's not a dream. Your son, Su Fang, has returned from the great world. Su Fang is back. After confirming that it wasn't a dream, Su Yaotian was so excited that his eyes were brimming with tears. The others also felt as if they had just woken up from a dream, and the hall burst into cheers. Looking at the familiar faces, Su Fang was also overwhelmed with emotions. What was the purpose of ascending to the outside world? Wasn't it to become stronger and protect his family and friends in the small world from harm? Now that he had made such an earth-shattering achievement in the great world, and his family and friends in the small world were all safe and sound, what could he not be happier about? Seeing Su Fang's white hair, Su Yaotian felt distressed and worried. It doesn't matter. It won't take long for me to recover completely. Looking at Tranquility Emperor's body, Su Fang smiled carelessly. Tranquility Emperor was one of the top experts in the immortal AO macro world. His body was full of life essence. Devouring his body could not only restore the lost vitality, but also break through to the peak of the 8th Tao realm of Realm Immortal. Su Yaotian found that the immortal devil monster's face was very similar to Su Fang's. He couldn't help but feel surprise. This expert is... You can consider it as one of my doppelgangers. Su Fang didn't bother to explain further. Your doppelganger? Su Yaotian was shocked. Yes, I'm Su Fang and Su Fang is me. The immortal devil monster cupped his fists to Su Yaotian, but his voice was still cold. Such a peerless expert who could kill a supreme immortal emperor is actually Su Fang's doppelganger. Everyone was also shocked. They didn't see Su Fang attack just now, so they thought it was the immortal devil monster who killed Tranquility Emperor. Naturally, they thought that the immortal devil monster was the peerless expert of Tranquility Emperor. Such a peerless expert was actually Su Fang's doppelganger. Only then did they realize that Su Fang's current height was far beyond their imagination. Clatter! Su Fang took out a large amount of immortal essence pills and spiritual items from the macro world, and then prepared to use the essence of the macro world to help them recover and improve their overall strength. Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and the others had stayed in the micro world for years. Due to the changes of heaven and earth, the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth was almost exhausted. As a result, their cultivation didn't improve much. On the contrary, some people's realms fell. Naturally, Su Fang wanted to help them improve their strength quickly. At this time, Su Fang didn't lack resources at all. Besides, these cultivators of the micro-world didn't consume much resources. The elixirs and spiritual items that Su Fang took out were, of course, the lowest level. The cultivators of the small world had no luck to enjoy the things that were too high level. These low-grade immortal essence pills still needed Su Fang's help. Otherwise, the abundant immortal essence qi would cause the cultivator's body to explode. Li Ziqing said, "Su Fang, don't worry about us. You recover first." In addition, due to the shackles of Tranquility Emperor, there are no experts in the 5 micro-worlds at this time. The Beichen zone may be attacked by the resurrected cultivators at any time. We must go and organize people. Don't worry about those resurrected cultivators. Su Fang smiled domineeringly. He waved his hand and released a Xian Guang. He condensed a picture with his mind. Outside the Beichen zone, countless resurrected cultivators fell into chaos. Lord Green Feather, Bai Ling, Emperor Zhu, Sky-reaching Monster Venerable, Immortal Tortoise. Gosh, they have all become so powerful. That's Li Haojia. He can mobilize millions of big goblin. All of them are monster immortals. Lord of 5 Poisons, Poison Realm almost covers half of the starry sky. Who is that white-robed fairy? She is possessed by a divine bird and can control such terrifying cold fog. What they saw shocked them completely. They couldn't believe their eyes. Resurrected cultivators, big goblin, demons, and ancient demons that had broken through the seal. Not only were there a lot of them, but there were also many peak experts who had survived 3 doomsday disasters. No one knew how many human experts had been devoured by them. But now, they were like a group of weak chickens being slaughtered, and slaughtered by Lord Greenfeather and the others. The starry sky around the Beichen zone was filled with corpses. Layer after layer, they blotted out the sky. Second primordial spirit, go and lend them a hand. Su Fang ordered his second primordial spirit. N_R, yes. The immortal fiend monster flew through the void and arrived outside the Beichen zone in an instant. With the immortal fiend monster's peerless strength as an 8 paths saint immortal and its powerful primordial spirit, it was another crazy massacre against a group of resurrected cultivators from the lower realm. Su Fang looked at Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and the others. He found that other than shock, there was also envy and yearning in their eyes. You don't have to envy them. I let you stay here to cultivate to protect the 5 small worlds and nurture more origin experts to support this star field. Now that I'm back, I naturally have to help you improve quickly. Although you won't be able to catch up with Lord Greenfeather and the others in a short time, your improvement speed will be 100 times, no, 10,000 times faster than other cultivators. Not only that, but the spirit chi in the small worlds is almost depleted. They can no longer stay and cultivate. I plan to bring the 5 small worlds, as well as all the cultivators and people in them, through the void of the small worlds into the great world. Everyone was shocked by the surprise that came one after another. Their minds were a little numb. How terrifying would it take to bring the 5 small worlds into the great world? Even an ordinary immortal emperor expert wouldn't have such a terrifying ability, let alone an ordinary immortal. They had long thought that with Su Fang's luck, talent, and strength, there would definitely be a time when he would soar to the great world. But how many years had it been? Hoo, the sound of deep breathing could be heard in the main hall. If they didn't calm their breathing, some people would faint from the shock of the news brought by Su Fang. Next, Su Fang made everyone swallow elixirs and then activated the world seed, using the power of the world to help them recover and improve rapidly. At the same time, Su Fang also activated the world seed, cooperating with the ethereal primordial realm. His entire body instantly became one with the 5 small worlds. Although Su Fang had left the 5 small worlds, because he was constantly fusing with his bloodline, His fusion with the 5 small worlds had reached a near-perfect level. The mountains, rivers, and earth of the small worlds were all condensed from his bloodline. At this time, Su Fang's cultivation realm, physical body, essence spirit, and world seed had all reached an astonishing level. After fusing with the 5 small worlds again, the world essence of the small worlds had undergone a tremendous change. Following that, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and the other big shots, as well as the origin cultivators of the 5 small worlds, also obtained huge benefit. Their strength rose rapidly at an unimaginable speed. Not only that, Su Fang took out countless elixirs and spiritual items, refining them into spirit liquid with the crucible transformation cauldron, sending them above the 5 small worlds with the power of the world, and turning them into spirit rain with his divine power, falling on the earth. In an instant, under the influence of the power of evil yang, the spirit qi that was gradually weakening and drying up was immediately overflowing with astonishing spirit qi. All kinds of withered and dying lives were rapidly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 5 small worlds, as well as the cultivators, the people, and even the grass and trees in the small worlds, with the return of Su Fang, were full of vitality again. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. =_our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1407. All the living beings in the 5 small worlds have benefited greatly from it. After absorbing the spirit rain, not only did the cultivators recover their cultivation, but they also improved greatly. The ones who changed the most were the ordinary people. Affected by the changes in the world, the lifespan of the ordinary people was shortened to half of what it used to be, and all kinds of strange diseases appeared, causing the population to decrease by 1/3. At this time, the death qi and evil qi in the 5 small worlds were washed away by the spirit rain. Many people who were on the verge of death immediately regained their vitality, and all the ordinary people's bodies changed. The heavenly gourd spirit tree that Su Fang planted in the mortal emperor world originally had dim spirit qi, and even showed signs of withering. Now that the mortal emperor world's world origin had received the power of Su Fang's world, the heavenly gourd spirit tree that was rooted in the mortal emperor world's world origin had also indirectly received the power of Su Fang. In addition, after absorbing the spirit rain that contained the power of a large world, the heavenly gourd spirit tree that countless cultivators looked up to and were shocked by in the past reappeared in front of everyone's eyes. What happened? Could it be that the heavens know that the small worlds are facing a catastrophe and sent down the spirit rain to nourish the common people? Countless cultivators and ordinary people walked out of their homes and knelt on the ground, thanking the heavens for their blessings. Baichen Zone. Many cultivators thought that this time, the world barrier would be broken by the resurrected cultivators and be destroyed, but the giants and experts of the small worlds never showed up. Just as they were in despair, Fairy Xuanxin, the Green Feather Emperor, and the others arrived and swept through the army of resurrected cultivators. At this time, the spirit rain fell from the sky again. The cultivators of the origin of the small worlds could clearly sense the changes in the entire world, and they were all shocked and surprised. Seeing the big goblin like the Green Feather Emperor and Bai Ling, as well as Li Haojie and the Lord of 5 Poisons, people vaguely understood something. The catastrophe swept through the small world. In this planetary field, except for the 5 small worlds in Su Fang, almost all the other small worlds were broken through by the resurrected cultivators. Countless experts fled to the 5 small worlds. This included the 6 lords of fertility, Yu Yingying, many realm lords, experts, and the powerful big goblin, including the famous sky drill rat monarch, Dao Jin Fox Mother, Dao Wuliang, and Shu Shuai. They originally thought that the 5 small worlds would not be able to escape the calamity. They did not expect such a thing to happen so suddenly. Each and every one of them was shocked and puzzled. Su Fang, your master? How long has it been since Su Fang ascended to the great world? the Lord of 5 Poisons. The Vermilion Emperor, sky-piercing demon venerable, undying tortoise, and the other powerful big goblins. They were overjoyed. The cultivators and commoners of the 5 small worlds were in an uproar. Their cheers shook the galaxy. Of course, there were also people who suspected that even if Su Fang returned, he could not change the fate of the small world. Under the powerful strength of the Green Feather Emperor and the others, the resurrected cultivators were defeated. In the end, they had to retreat and leave the galaxy formed by the 5 small worlds. The Green Feather Emperor and the others did not pursue. There were too many resurrected cultivators. They could not kill them all. Inside the main hall of the Mortal Emperor world, with the help of Su Fang, Su Yaotian and the other big shots had successfully refined the elixirs. Not only had they recovered their former cultivation base, but many of them had also left the main hall to find a place to break through to the next level. Su Fang took out several Taoist weapons and a large number of immortal-level cultivation techniques for everyone to cultivate. Su Fang had countless resources from the big world. Just a little bit from his fingers would be enough to benefit the cultivators of the small worlds for a lifetime. As for the immortal-level cultivation techniques, the Green Sky Thousand Scrolls door was famous for its various great da'at. There were countless cultivation techniques and magical powers in the sect. He could always find a suitable one for the big shots to cultivate. Then, he took out several spiritual veins and inserted them into the 5 small worlds. The spiritual chi of the small worlds became extremely abundant. It was the immortal spiritual chi that only existed in the big world. After such changes, the small worlds were completely transformed. Of course, there was still a big gap between them and the big world. They still needed to be modified continuously. Su Fang could conclude that in less than 10 years, the strength of the 5 small worlds and all the cultivators would undergo a huge transformation. After doing all this, Su Fang did not have time to reminisce with the others. He entered the Crucible Transformation world and turned into the underworld Blood Sea. He devoured Tranquility Emperor's corpse and recovered his life force. Whoosh, whoosh. The arrival of the Green Feather Emperor and the others in the main hall caused another commotion. Demon Emperor! All of you have become the legendary Demon Emperor. Seeing the strength of the Green Feather Emperor and the other powerful big goblin, Li Ziqing and the others' eyeballs almost fell out. It was extremely difficult for the demon clan in the small worlds to become demon immortals. For example, the Daojian Fox Mother and the Sky Drill Rat Emperor were peerless big goblins in the small world. The Green Feather Emperor, Zhu Emperor and the other big goblins not only became demon immortals, but also became demon emperors. The changes of Li Haojie and the Lord of 5 Poisons were also very shocking. Although the strength of the two was far inferior to Su Fang and even inferior to the big goblin like the Green Feather Emperor, they had reached an unimaginable level. Looking at the Green Feather Emperor and the other subordinates who followed Su Fang to the big worlds, Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua and the other big shots were shocked and envious. At the same time, it was too late for regrets. Some big shots, who were greedy for the safety of the small worlds and gave up on going to the big worlds with Su Fang, were even more regretful now. Venerable Gu said, "Compared to Su Fang, they are nothing. You probably don't know yet, but Su Fang is already an overlord of the big worlds. He is known as Emperor Su. At the Ascension Pool, I saw his might with my own eyes. TSK. He said he would destroy an immortal world. Those high and mighty immortals were scared witless. Haha, it was so satisfying. An overlord of the big worlds? Emperor Su? Everyone was completely stunned. This is... Su Yaotian could sense Su Fang's aura from Fairy Xuanxin, but he did not dare to confirm it. Fairy Xuanxin's holy and noble aura made everyone not dare to look directly at her. Lan Haiqing and the other female cultivators felt a sense of inferiority. Fairy Xuanxin bowed towards Su Yaotian graciously. "I am Su Fang's Dao companion, my name is Xuanxin. Greetings to Lord Father. Bai Ling interrupted. In the big worlds, Fairy Xuanxin is known as Empress, that is, Brother Su Fang's wife. Su Yaotian trembled with excitement. He could not speak for a long time. There was an uproar in the hall. Greetings to Mistress. Su Fang's big shots came to greet her one after another. Looking at Fairy Xuanxin, who was like a deity standing in the clouds, Lan Haiqing felt a little uncomfortable. And in Xiao Mei Er's memories, there was no trace of Su Fang, so she did not show any abnormalities. You guys chat first, I'll go meet some old friends. The Green Feather Emperor sensed the auras of a few familiar faces and laughed loudly. He broke through space and arrived in the immortal primordial world, appearing above a canyon. Sky Drill Rat Darch, Daojin Fox Mother, I'm here to see you. The Green Feather Emperor stood with his hands behind his back and said in a majestic voice. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Sky Drill Rat Darch and Daojin Fox Mother appeared with their big goblin subordinates. Dao Wuliang and Shu Shuai were among them. Green Feather Emperor? The Sky Drill Rat Darch and Daojin Fox Mother's expressions changed drastically. Sensing the vast demonic aura and unfathomable strength of the Green Feather Emperor, the two big goblins' eyes were filled with deep reverence. Especially the Sky Drill Rat Darch. He and the Green Feather Emperor were old enemies. Now that the Green Feather Emperor's strength had reached a level that he had to look up to, how could the Sky Drill Rat Darch not be afraid? I've long become a demonic emperor, and I'm not far from becoming a supreme demonic emperor. You can call me the Green Feather Emperor. The Green Feather Emperor looked down at his old enemy, feeling very unhappy. Demonic Emperor! The Sky Drill Rat Emperor and the Dao True Fox Matriarch gasped. The reverence in their eyes became even more intense, and even their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Greetings, Green Feather Emperor! The Sky Drill Rat Darch bowed deeply to the Green Feather Emperor. Sky Drill Rat Darch, Daojin Fox Mother, you never dreamed that I would have today's achievements, did you? Not only me, but all the big goblin that followed Su Fang to the macro world were at least demonic immortals, and very powerful ones at that. You two frogs at the bottom of a well, and yet you're still in the realm of ascension. Dao Wuliang, you little fox, and that little rat. Before the Zhuotian realm was destroyed, Su Fang specially went to find you and invited you to the mortal emperor world. But you two were short-sighted, and that little rat even had other thoughts about Su Fang. You two frogs at the bottom of a well. The Green Feather Emperor laughed loudly. The Sky Drill Rat Darch and Daojin Fox Mother were filled with bitterness and regret. Dao Wuliang bared his teeth at Shu Shuai. If Shu Shuai had not advised him to follow Su Fang, he would have been at least a demonic immortal by now. Back then, he had ignored Su Fang's advice. Later, when the micro-world was destroyed, he had no choice but to come to the 5 micro-world. If not for the friendship between Dao Wuliang and Su Fang, Li Ziqing would not have taken them in at all. The Sky Drill Rat Darch braced himself and said, I was the enemy of the Green Feather Emperor back then. Today I know that I will die. Green Feather Emperor, please spare my descendants and the demons under my command. Daojin Fox Mother was also nervous. Although she was not enemies with the Green Feather Emperor back then, they were not on good terms either. Shu Shuai was so nervous that he could not stop trembling. If the Green Feather Emperor really wanted to kill him now, it would be easier than killing a little rat. You think I'm as narrow-minded as a rat like you? Humph, I don't care about past grievances. I came here this time just to see how miserable you are and to catch up with you. Then, I'll help you to become demonic immortals as soon as possible so that you won't embarrass me in the future. The Green Feather Emperor snorted disdainfully. He threw a storage ring to each of the Fox Mother and the Sky Drill Rat Darch. Inside were hundreds of low-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills. Then, he flew away. The two big goblin were surprised and happy. Then, they felt ashamed and grateful. Shu Shuai, if not for you, I would have been a powerful demonic immortal by now. I would have killed you. Dao Wuliang gritted his teeth and pounced on Shu Shuai. The 6 lords of fertility, the realm lords of the true dragon realm and the sky light realm, and the other experts who had fled to the 5 microworlds to seek refuge, went to visit Su Fang. Su Fang, who was cultivating in seclusion, created a blood clone and flew out of the crucible transformation realm to meet everyone. In the end, he gave each of the realm lords a Dao artifact and a cultivation technique of a macro world. Even Yu Yingying was given a copy. The realm lords were extremely excited. Yu Yingying was pleasantly surprised. She admired the foresight of the 6 lords of fertility. If the 6 lords of fertility had not befriended Su Fang, how could they have received such benefits? After that, Su Fang met Lan Haiqing, Xiao Mei'er and his sister Su Erksan in the Immortal Melody world. =R download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1408. Su Fang brought Fairy Xuanxin to see Xiao Mei'er b. Hearing about the past between Su Fang and Xiao Mei'er, as well as Xiao Mei'er's encounter, Fairy Xuanxin also sighed. As for other thoughts, she didn't have any. Not to mention Su Fang, which of the big shots and experts who had some power didn't have a group of Dao companions? Su Fang was the overlord of the small world, and he was also the overlord of a large world. In the small world, he only had Xiao Mei'er as his lover, and in the large world, he only had Fairy Xuanxin as his Dao companion. It could be said that he had a pure heart and few desires. Moreover, at this time, Xiao Mei'er had become like this. Fairy Xuanxin wasn't a petty person, so she naturally didn't care about anything. Instead, she felt pity for Xiao Mei'er and kept comforting Su Fang. Just like before, Xiao Mei'er completely regarded Su Fang as a stranger. Although under Lan Haiqing's constant persuasion, she no longer rejected Su Fang so much, but there was still a huge gap between her and Su Fang. Thinking of the charming and flirtatious Xiao Fei from back then, Su Fang's heart was very sad. This was probably the most unhappy thing after returning to the small world. Although the second primordial spirit had devoured Night Demon's imprint runes and grasped some of Night Demon's ability to control the thoughts of cultivators, it was still unable to solve the problem on Xiao Mei'er's body. However, it wasn't completely hopeless. Since the root of the problem was found on Night Demon, Su Fang would find a way to save Xiao Mei'er sooner or later. Next, Su Fang cultivated while transforming the 5 small worlds in preparation for ascending to the large world. The 5 small worlds were constantly transforming, and the strength of the big shots and origin cultivators who stayed in the small worlds was also increasing at an astonishing rate. Even the other cultivators and commoners were also transforming along with the changes in the small world. Everyone's heart was filled with hope. N_R. The 3rd evil sun rose into the sky, and the small worlds suffered a catastrophe of destruction. Everyone fell into despair. Guarding the 5 small worlds was not a long-term plan. In the end, they would follow in the footsteps of the other small world. Over the past few hundred years, everyone had fallen into despair. Now, Su Fang had returned from the Great World. Not only had he saved the 5 lesser worlds, but he had also brought the lesser worlds into the Great World. Although many people found it unbelievable, they were filled with hope. Undead King. Su Fang arrived at the Crucible Transformation World and entered the Undead Monarch's array formation. Back in the worldlet, Su Fang finally got rid of Tranquility Emperor. Since there was no other threat now, Su Fang started to subdue the Undead King. Su Fang, seeing the legacy of his good friend become the master who controlled his life and death, the Undead Lord was filled with a bitter taste in his heart, and he would not truly submit wholeheartedly. Undead Lord, now that you've fallen into my hands, I know you're unwilling to submit, but you have no other choice. Either you submit wholeheartedly or you die. I'll use a divine artifact to refine you into a medicinal pill. Su Fang spoke with a majestic voice. He flipped his hand and took out the treasured mirror. Divine artifact. The undead lord's gray eyes revealed a look of horror. He had personally experienced the supreme power of the Origin's sacred mirror, which had left a shadow in his heart. How could he not be afraid? After beating him with a stick, Su Fang handed him a handful of sweet date. He threw an interspatial ring to the undead lord. There are 1,000 top-grade yin-yang immortal sky pellets in here. They will be of great help to restore your strength. They will not be slower than you devouring life energy. I even have a king-grade medicinal pill with me. It will not be difficult to help you restore your strength. Top-grade yin-yang immortal sky pellets, king-grade medicinal pills. The undead lord's eyes suddenly lit up. The yin-yang immortal sky pellets contained the power of yin and yang. Not only could it directly fuse with the true qi in a cultivator's body, but it could also drive the true qi to transform into the yin and yang true qi of the medicinal pill. Besides, the medicinal efficacy of the medicinal pill could also be transformed into life energy. No matter what, it would be of great help to the undead lord who cultivated the Tao of Death. As for the king-grade medicinal pill, it would be of great help to the undead lord's recovery. Restore some of your strength first, and then start working for me. It's very simple. I'll give you 50 years to clean up all the resurrected cultivators, devils, big goblin, as well as those ancient devils and big goblin who broke the seal and escaped in this star field. Such a trivial matter should not be difficult for you, right? Such a trivial matter. You are underestimating this lord too much, the undead lord said proudly. With the undead lord's strength and the fact that he cultivated the Tao of Death, he was just like the ancestors of those resurrected cultivators. Even if he couldn't eliminate all the evil experts in the small world, he would at least be able to eliminate most of them. Moreover, the death energy of those resurrected cultivators, devils, and big goblin, as well as the life energy of the ancient devils and big goblin, were also of great benefit to the undead lord who cultivated the Tao of Death. He could even get the yin-yang immortal sky pellet. How could he not be happy to obey? Remove the shackles of the array formation on the undead lord and let him cultivate in the crucible transformation realm first. Su Fang left in embarrassment. Law asked puzzledly in the blood jade, Su Fang, even if you kill all the resurrected cultivators, you can't change the natural environment of the small world. Isn't it superfluous for you to arrange the undead lord like this? Su Fang smiled faintly and replied, The reason why I arranged such a simple task for the undead lord is to prevent those powerful resurrected experts from breaking into the outside world through the heavenly path. At that time, it will inevitably be troublesome. But I have a deeper purpose. What deeper purpose? The undead lord is not only evil and cruel, but also unruly and difficult to tame. It is impossible to make him obedient all of a sudden. Let him do some easy things first, then give him some benefits. Slowly, he will get used to working for me. You are getting more and more cunning. You even know how to use the Tao of controlling people. I am the Star River Overlord of a small world. In the outside world, I am also an overlord who controls nearly 1,000,000 troops. I also cultivate the tyrannical emperor's heaven-soaring technique. I know a little about the emperor's mind. However, I have to be on guard against evil resurrected experts like the undead lord at all times. I can't let him recover too quickly. When the time comes, it will be difficult to control him. I can't give him the heaven-shrouding nether coffin. Of course. Law, can I fuse with the heaven-shrouding nether coffin, a peerless Tao artifact? The heaven-shrouding nether coffin and the Xianming Thunder Archive were peerless Tao artifacts of the same level. Su Fang was very jealous. Law advised seriously, Of course you can fuse with it. However, the heaven-shrouding nether coffin is a Tao artifact of evil cultivators. You have not cultivated any evil cultivation method. In addition, this Tao artifact is extremely evil. You'd better not fuse with it easily. Su Fang dismissed the idea, but he was not too disappointed. He already had enough Tao artifacts. He did not lack the heaven-shrouding nether coffin. He would leave it for the time being. Maybe it would come in handy in the future. Unknowingly, about 30 years had passed. Tianmong Realm. Due to the exhaustion of spirit qi, the Tianmong realm was desolate, like a huge tomb. On the outside of a huge canyon, there were more than 50,000 resurrected cultivators. They were lined up neatly like a team waiting to be inspected. They were completely different from the other crazy and evil resurrected cultivators. The person inspecting this team of resurrected cultivators was none other than Su Fang. Su Fang stood in the air with his hands behind his back. The dead lord stood beside him. Kill. As Su Fang's majestic voice fell, the resurrected cultivators split into two groups. One group flew into the air, while the other group strode forward. At the same time, they exploded with a strong aura of death and murderous intent. They charged into the canyon. It turned out that over the years, Su Fang had used the method of creating the immortal blood spirit, combined with the blood-colored runes and immortal array of the corpse refinement puppet, and experimented with the resurrected cultivators in the small world. He had finally created an army of resurrected cultivators. Right now, he was experimenting with the resurrected cultivators entrenched in the canyon. A great battle between the resurrected cultivators erupted. There were more than 200,000 resurrected cultivators in the canyon. They were controlled by a resurrected cultivator equivalent to 2 calamity stage cultivators. Their overall strength was quite impressive. They were considered a rather powerful force in the Tianmong realm. There was no need for Su Fang to control them. The corpse refinement puppets that he had personally created already had all sorts of battle techniques and coordinated attacks ingrained in their mind. All they had to do was to obey Su Fang's orders and kill all the enemies. The battle lasted less than an hour. The resurrected cultivators in the canyon were defeated by Su Fang's corpse refinement puppet. Most of them were killed. Only the resurrected cultivator with 2 calamity stage cultivators escaped with less than 10,000 resurrected cultivators. The army of corpse refinement puppets, which were also created from resurrected cultivators, easily defeated enemies 4 times their number. Such combat strength was simply astonishing. Moreover, these corpse refinement puppets only knew to obey Su Fang's orders. They did not know what death was. Furthermore, they did not need to devour the aura of life to strengthen themselves. They only needed to consume some immortal stones. Su Fang lacked everything except immortal stones and various other resources. More importantly, Su Fang had finally grasped the method to resist the evil resurrected cultivators. In the future, he would have the capital to deal with the catastrophe in the large world. Very good. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light. He waved his hand and struck out a seal. Blood-colored runes and immortal stones flew out of the corpse refinement puppets' bodies and landed in Su Fang's hands. He swept them up and stored them in his storage ring. These corpse refinement puppets made from resurrected cultivators in the small world were just used by Su Fang for experiment. They were useless in the large world. The undead king's gray eyes revealed shock and fear. The corpse refinement puppets of the corpse refinement sect had been lost for a long time. He did not expect that Su Fang had mastered it. Moreover, the corpse refinement sect did not have such a fast speed and quantity of puppet. This was not a good thing for the forces of resurrected cultivators. How could Su Fang not know the undead king's thoughts? He said coldly, "When you follow me for a long time, you will know that I, Su Fang, have plenty of means to deal with resurrected cultivators and demon experts. You'd better give up those unrealistic ideas as soon as possible. Continue to clean up the resurrected cultivators." Su Fang threw some yin-yang immortal sky pills to the undead king and flew straight into the sky. Time flew. About 20 years had passed. In the Crucible transformation world, Su Fang transformed into the yellow spring blood sea and kept devouring Tranquility Emperor's body to reach the peak of the 8th Dao realm of Realm Immortal. After so many years, Not only had the Yellow Springs Blood Sea been completely restored to its peak state, but the Yellow Springs Blood Sea was also constantly transforming. It had now reached a height of 1,200 meters, and was burning with the flames of life. It was like a roaring ocean, and the entire bloody vortex was filled with the divine might of reincarnation. Tranquility Emperor cultivated the tyrannical Emperor soaring the sky technique. His golden core was full of abundant and pure Emperor's true qi, which was being absorbed by Su Fang constantly. His golden core, meridians, and flesh were all filled with the mysterious golden Emperor's seal. The palace of heaven and earth was full of the Emperor's divine power, which almost reached the peak of the way of the Emperor. However, the seed of the world didn't change much. Although Tranquility Emperor's qi of monarch was abundant, it was still far less than the power of faith of billions of creatures in Tranquility Emperor's mansion. Besides, it was very difficult for the seed of the world to cultivate, so it wouldn't change much within a short time. Xiao Chen's 36th meridian was also continuously breaking through. It was about to enter the fourth transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformations. Qi. Su Fang, who was in the middle of the bloody whirlpool, suddenly spewed out a burst of tribulation energy. So he was about to break through the peak of the 8 Dao realm and reach the 9 Dao realm. =R download address. Mobile reading. Bibliographic review. Chapter 1409. Su Fang took the blood water hovering around him, as well as the blood man avatar, into his true body, and then flew out of the crucible transformation world B. He found a desolate place in the mortal emperor world and used the power of advancement to break through to the 9th Dao realm of the world immortal realm. The tribulation fire burned wildly, followed by the familiar power of advancement. After more than a month, the tribulation fire on his body gradually extinguished. Su Fang's aura and the Dao marks in his body had all turned into 9th Dao realm of the world immortal realm. His divine aperture became more vast, his meridians more majestic, and his golden core origin became more sturdy. His yang immortal and magic power also transformed. His perfect fleshly body and other physical abilities, including the heaven and earth Dao palace and the ability to control Dao artifacts, all reached a new height with this advancement. Even the 5 small worlds and the 3 treasures had improved due to Su Fang's advancement. Su Fang used all kinds of divine abilities, combined with the world's divine aura and ethereal enlightenment. His divine aura covered an astonishing 6,000 miles. This was a level that only a peerless immortal emperor of the 6th Dao realm of the Saint Immortal realm could achieve. The spirit qi of the 5 small worlds was not enough to support Su Fang's cultivation, so he began to devour pills and spiritual items to stabilize his 9th Dao realm. During these years of Su Fang's cultivation, the entire small world had completely changed. However, this was all maintained by relying on resources. If the spiritual energy of heaven and earth didn't change, sooner or later it would return to its original form. The cultivators in the small worlds continued to improve at an astonishing speed. Most of the big shots had reached the 3 Calamity realm. They only needed to go to the great worlds and pass the last tribulation to become immortals. The resurrected cultivators that ran rampant in the small worlds were almost all dealt with by the undead king. He was indeed the strongest person of the evil path. In these 50 years, he had almost wiped out all the resurrected cultivators in this star field. The resurrected cultivators that were like locusts in the past were now nowhere to be seen. The ancient devils and big goblin did not escape the undead king's hands of death. They all became nutrients for him to recover his strength. Although the resurrected cultivators from the little world were not very powerful, their numbers were in the hundreds of millions. After being devoured by the undead king, his strength had returned to the 9th Dao Saint Celestial stage. In addition to the yin-yang immortal sky pellet, Su Fang also rewarded him with a king-grade pellet. After fighting with Su Fang twice, Dead Monarch's cultivation level dropped to the 6th Dao realm, but he finally recovered to the peak of the Nine Dao realm. Su Fong had planted an imprint in his body, which was condensed from the Origin's sacred mirror. In addition, the undead king no longer had the sky-shrouding underworld coffin, so he couldn't do anything to Su Fong. The undead emperor, who had tasted the sweetness of victory, had a subtle change in his opinion of Su Fong. Another 10 years passed. Swish, swish, swish. Experts arrived at the 5 little worlds one after another. They were Dugumujian, Old Immortal Withered Rong, Black Hawk Demon Emperor, and Old Monster Zhu Tian, who had rushed over from the Great World. A year ago, Su Fong had sent the Green Feather Emperor back to the Great World to summon Dugumujian and the other experts to the Little World. Without their help, it would be difficult for Su Fong to break through the shackles of the starry sky and bring the Little Worlds to the Great World. When everything was ready, all eyes were on him. Everyone in the Little Worlds was filled with anticipation. In the galaxy, Su Fong was also excited as he looked at the 5 little worlds. Let's go. Let's ascend to the Great World together. Su Fong activated the World Divine Might and wrapped the World Barrier around the 5 little world. He used the World Energy to condense the World Barrier so that Su Fong could control all 5 little worlds. Swish, 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 swish. Su Fong peeled off chains condensed from the World Energy. The Green Feather Emperor, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and the other demon emperor-level big goblin, Li Haojia, and the Lord of 5 Poisons grabbed the chains and shouted excitedly, "Let's go to the Great World." With the current strength of these powerful big goblin, Li Haojia, and the Lord of 5 Poisons, any one of them could easily move the 5 little worlds. The reason why they worked together was to personally pull their hometowns to the Great World. Boom, boom, boom. Under the shocked, expectant, and excited gazes of the little worlds, the 5 little worlds slowly moved. All the obstacles in front had long been cleared by Su Fong's subordinates, opening up a galaxy passage for the 5 little worlds to pass through. The speed of movement became faster and faster. In the end, it was like a bird flying in the starry sky. Such a shocking scene made everyone in the little worlds feel like they were dreaming. Gradually, the 5 little worlds came to the top of the galaxy and could no longer see any stars. The shackles became stronger and the speed of the little world's movement became slower and slower. At this time, the immortal emperors under Su Fong took turns to attack to maintain the speed of the little world's movement. After entering the heavenly road, the starry sky was no longer empty. Instead, there was a large amount of dust condensed into a paste-like substance. The heavenly road was like a heaven-defying road. The huge shackles were nothing to Su Fong and the others, but dragging the 5 little worlds was not an easy task. Fortunately, the 5 little worlds had been transformed by Su Fong for so many years, and the world barriers had become extremely strong. There was no need to worry about being broken by the shackles, and the cultivators and people in the little worlds would not be affected in any way. The main thing was that the obstacles in the heavenly road had brought them huge trouble. "Let me go first." Dugumujian stood out without hesitation. Swish! The annihilation sword chi burst out, and the paste-like substance in front of them shattered layer by layer. The annihilation sword intent forcibly cut open a passage of nearly 10,000 miles. Such a shocking scene shocked the cultivators in the little world. They were amazed by Dugumujian and had a very direct and clear understanding of Su Fong's overall strength. There were more and more substances in the heavenly road. Dugumujian, the immortal fiend monster, and Withered Immortal took turns to attack. In the end, not only the Green Feather Emperor and the other big goblin, but Su Fong even released the small commanders and the army to clear the huge substances in front of them, clearing the obstacles for the little worlds to advance. After about 30 years, they finally stepped on the heavenly road. On the heavenly road, there were dried corpses or bones along the way. Due to the changes in heaven and earth, countless cultivators from the little worlds, including some who had not reached the 3rd calamity stage, were forced to step on the heavenly road in order to survive. They tried to use the heavenly road to go to the great world, but they died on the heavenly road. It was difficult for 1 in 100,000 to reach the ascension pool. A few months later, the heavenly road was almost completely filled with substances. The starry sky could no longer be seen, and the shackles in the space became even stronger. The cultivators and people of the little worlds held indescribable reverence for the heavenly Tao, and they had witnessed the cruelty of the heavenly Tao. Only then did they deeply realize that if it were not for Su Fang, they would either become nutrients for the resurrected cultivators in the little worlds, or they would be like the cultivators who died on the heavenly road, not to mention ascending to the great world. After resting on the heavenly road for about 10 years, Su Fang and the experts under him had all recovered to their peak state with the help of resources. Only then did they continue to advance and embark on an even more difficult journey. Heavenly Tao Immortal Realm. Su Fang drew most of his experts to the little world. Is he planning to bring the little worlds to the great world? The Heavenly Tao Immortal Realm and the former mansion of Emperor Ning were mortal enemies. Therefore, there were many spies in the mansion of Emperor Ning, and there were even people in the upper echelons of the mansion of Emperor Ning. The mansion of Emperor Ning became the mansion of Emperor Su, and Su Fang had a deadly feud with the Heavenly Tao Immortal Realm. Now that the mansion of Emperor Ning had been destroyed, the next step would be to attack the Heavenly Tao Immortal Realm. Naturally, Immortal Emperor Tian Ong would always pay attention to Su Fang's every move. After receiving the news from the mansion of Emperor Su, Immortal Emperor Tian Ong and Lord of Heaven Xian Shu were both shocked and stunned. 4 peerless experts like them, the cultivators and the people of the little worlds were even inferior to ants in the immortal realm. Su Fang had made such a big fuss and brought the little worlds to the great world at all costs. In their eyes, such a move was no different from a fool. Lord of Heaven, the opportunity has come. While the mansion of Emperor Su is empty, we can break into the mansion of Emperor Su in one fell swoop. We can even take the clear sky 1,000 scrolls door and the constellation of 9 heavens. Immortal Emperor Tian Ang's eyes flashed with excitement. Long Tian Ong, even if we take the mansion of Emperor Su, can you defend it when Su Fang comes back? Lord of Heaven Xian Shu said indifferently. If we want to completely solve the problem, we have to get rid of Su Fang first. Hearing the disdain in Lord of Heaven Xian Shu's voice, Immortal Emperor Tian Ong blushed and asked, Lord of Heaven, you mean, if Su Fang wants to bring the little worlds to the great world, he will definitely take the ascension passage to the Xianao Great World and bring the little worlds directly to the Star River near the mansion of Emperor Ning. As long as we set up an ambush at the entrance of the ascension pool, we will be able to catch all of them. Su Fang has many strong cultivators under his command. He has all kinds of divine skills and Tao artifacts. Lord of Heaven, although you have unparalleled strength, you have not recovered from your injuries yet. If we want to kill him, I'm afraid. Immortal Emperor Tian Ong was still a little worried. After being defeated by Su Fang again and again, he was traumatized. It's okay. Su Fang must be exhausted after bringing the little worlds to the great world. His overall strength will be greatly reduced. Also, I have contacted a junior brother in the Tianming Haotsong sect who is on good terms with me. He is also an expert who has reached the peak of the 9th Tao realm. He will come to this immortal region in a few days. Also, I have a forbidden spell that can restore me to my peak state in a short time. But after that, I will lose some vitality. If I can kill Su Fang, it will be worth it. Thinking of the peerless Tao artifact in Su Fang's hands, as well as the inheritance and resources he had, Lord of Heaven Xian Shu's eyes were filled with greed. Su Fang, let's decide our fate with this battle. Immortal Emperor Tian Ang's eyes flashed with a cold light. Heavenly Road. The Milky Way formed by the 5 little worlds advanced rapidly on the material Heavenly Road. Such a magnificent scene had never been seen before. Another 5 years later, they came to a boundless space that was like a nebula. It was right below the entrance of the ascension pool. A gray stone tablet floating in the void appeared in front of Su Fang and the other strong cultivators. Seeing the true inscriptions carved with great divine skills on the stone tablet, Su Fang, Li Haojie, and the Lord of Five Poisons looked at each other and smiled. They were all emotional. It had only been a few years, but he had brought the 5 little worlds to the great world. Thinking back, it was unbelievable. Let's go to the ascension pool. Led by Su Fang and the other strong cultivators, the 5 little worlds barged into the nebula space in an extremely domineering manner. They moved toward the entrance of the immortal Ao Great World's origin energy, stirring up a turbulent airflow. Dugumujian and the other strong cultivators also unleashed their auras or took out their Dao artifacts to break the enchantment of the entrance. After a year, they finally reached the depths of the entrance. This was the ascension pool where the spiritual root existed. Cultivators from the lower world had to merge with the spiritual root to be guided out of the ascension pool and step into the great world. =_our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1410. Whoosh! A bubble flew out of the barrier at the bottom of the ascension pool. It was wrapped in an immortal light. It was the spirit root bee that could help small world cultivators cleanse their marrow and form an immortal spirit body. Over the years, Su Fang used the power of the world seed and various pills and spiritual items from the great world to help the 5 small world giants form an immortal spirit body. They didn't need any spirit root at all. As long as they reached the great world and survived the apocalypse, they could become immortals. He directly took the 5 small worlds and forcefully passed through the barrier. Suddenly Law said from the blood jade in his body, "There might be a treasure in the barrier at the bottom of the ascension pool. Why don't you go take a look?" Treasure? Upon hearing that there was a treasure, Su Fang's eyes immediately burned with vigor. Something that Law called a treasure must be extraordinary. He asked with some confusion, "What other treasures can there be in the ascension pool other than the spirit root?" The spirit root is formed by some relatively pure immortal spirit chi. It's not very useful to immortals. The ascension pool is formed by the laws of the heavenly Tao. The spirit root in it is not created by immortals. It contains the power of the heavenly Tao and is used to help ascenders become immortals. Of course, ordinary spirit roots are useless to immortals. However, in the barrier at the bottom of the ascension pool, where the spirit root is born, there is a certain probability that something called the heavenly spirit root will appear. It will be very useful to you. Heavenly spirit root. That's right. The heavenly spirit root is something born from the laws of the heavenly Tao. Compared to ordinary spirit roots, it is like the difference between the divine essence pill and the immortal essence pill. Not only does it contain the highest level of life force in the great world, it also contains pure immortal spirit chi. Therefore, this thing is very helpful to immortals' cultivation. If an immortal demon monster's body fuses with a heavenly spirit root, it can recover at least 10% of its strength. Hearing Law's words, Su Fang's eyes lit up. Law continued, "More importantly, the heavenly spirit root also contains the mysteries of the heavenly Tao. After immortals fuse with it, they can improve their understanding of the laws of the heavenly Tao. It will be of great help to your cultivation of various immortal techniques, even divine techniques like the 9 Truths 9 Suns and the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique." Su Fang's eyes shone even brighter. "Law, if the heavenly spirit root is so important to immortals, why don't they look for it in the ascension pool?" Su Fang asked. Thinking about it, it made sense. The ascension pool was a place for cultivators from the lower realms to cleanse their marrow and ascend to become immortals. Immortals could go against the flow of the ascension passage and enter the ascension pool. If the heavenly spirit root was so important, why wouldn't they go after it? The heavenly immortal's heavenly Tao. The immortal emperor. Immortal. The Heavenly Spirit Root. He activated his world aura and stopped the 5 little worlds in the Ascension Pool. Just as he was about to bring the immortal fiend monsters to the Ascension Pool's barrier, Luo Zai suddenly shouted, "Be careful! A powerful enemy is coming!" Buzz. Su Fang's heavenly secret life contraction technique sensed the approaching enemy. The Tao runes of fate formed the figure of a gray-robed man in his divine aperture. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several figures passed through the Ascension Pool's barrier and appeared above the Ascension Pool. There were 5 of them in total. One of them was Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. His head, face, and skin were all gray. He looked like a stone man. His aura was faint. He was Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. He had used a forbidden technique to restore his cultivation to the peak of the 9th Tao Saint Immortal Realm. The other one was a golden-robed immortal. He looked to be in his early 20s. He was handsome and had an arrogant expression on his face. Based on his aura, one could tell he was a peak immortal emperor. The 3 men behind Heavenly Lord Xian Shu were also dressed in golden robes. Their cultivation bases were also at the 9th Tao Saint Immortal Realm. Any one of these 5 experts could sweep through the entire immortal realms unhindered. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu has found the experts from the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. The divine light in Su Fang's eyes instantly changed, and his heart suddenly sank to the bottom. He could kill a peak immortal emperor with the Xianming lightning scroll. The dead king could also deal with one. What about the 3 9th Tao Saint Immortal Realm experts? Even if the immortal fiend monster, Dugumujian, Withered Rong Immortal, Black Hawk Demon Emperor, and all the other experts worked together, they would not be able to fight against 3 9th Tao Saint Immortal Emperors. Moreover, they had expended a lot of energy to bring the small worlds here. Retreat to the small worlds. He immediately ordered the immortal fiend monster, Dugumujian, Withered Rong Immortal, Green Feather Emperor, and the other big goblin experts to retreat to the 5 small worlds. The enemy was too powerful. The only way was to retreat to the small worlds and use the world barrier that Su Fang had carefully built to defend. However, that was not a long-term solution. The cultivators in the small worlds began to panic when they knew that powerful enemies had arrived. They were the top experts of the Great World. "Su Fang, we meet again," Heavenly Lord Xian Shu said grimly. He looked down at Su Fang and the others as if they were a bunch of weaklings waiting to be slaughtered. "Senior brother Xian Shu, is this Su Fang who severely injured you? A 9th Tao Saint Immortal Realm cultivator?" The golden-robed man next to Heavenly Lord Xian Shu raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu was shocked when he saw Su Fang's cultivation level. Then he said, "Junior brother Feng Wu, this person not only has a heaven-defying cultivation level, but he also has many divine powers. He can even use a peerless Tao artifact. He's definitely not an ordinary world immortal cultivator. He has many experts under him. Junior brother Feng Wu, don't be careless. How dare a bunch of weaklings go against the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect? Senior brother Xian Shu, why have you become so timid after coming to this desolate star region?" The golden-robed man smiled disdainfully. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu said, "Junior brother Feng Wu is a peerless genius of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. In front of you, any peerless figure is naturally a weakling." The golden-robed man called Feng Wu by Heavenly Lord Xian Shu looked at Su Fang and said, "I'm Feng Wu Zi of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. I've heard senior brother Xian Shu talk about your various extraordinary deeds. Now that I see that you're indeed talented, if you submit to me, I'll give you the identity of a golden-robed sword slave. You'll enjoy the same treatment and resources as the 3 sword slaves behind me. What do you think?" The people of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect were indeed arrogant. They immediately asked Su Fang to become their sword slave. However, it was as if they were doing Su Fong a great favor. Su Fong glanced at the 5 small worlds behind him. He cupped his fists and said, "Su Fong greets Lord Feng Wuzi. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I have no intention of becoming a sword slave." Disappoint? There are many peerless geniuses in the large worlds who are begging to become my sword slave. I don't need you. You'll just be another dead soul under my sword. Feng Wuzi smiled faintly. A xian guang of sword qi suddenly burst out from his eyes. It carried a terrifying aura that could tear everything apart as it shot towards Su Fong. In an instant, Su Fong's eyes were filled with eerie sword intent. The entire world turned into a terrifying sword sea. The peerless expert of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect was indeed extremely powerful. Just a gaze had such terrifying power. Heaven Burning Eye. Su Fong activated the illusory fire cloud, which burst out from his eyes. Flames shot out and exploded 1,000 feet in front of him. It turned into a raging sea of fire, shattering and incinerating the sword intent that filled the sky layer by layer. However, the sword intent eventually dissipated the sea of fire and continued to attack Su Fong. Boom! Su Fong activated the underworld reincarnation sword and burst out a shocking reincarnation sword intent. It formed a reincarnation divine might around his body. Only then did he dissolve the sword intent. What a domineering flame! What a strange sword intent! It can even dissolve my sword intent. Feng Wuzi was very surprised. The next moment equals N_1. Feng Wuzi said indifferently, "Kill him!" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 golden-robed sword slaves behind him charged toward Su Fong. Facing 3 peerless experts of the 9 Dao Saint realm at the same time, Su Fong was no match for them. He immediately released the undead king. "I need 3 king-grade medicinal pills this time." To Su Fong's surprise, the undead king actually started to extort and raise the price. Su Fong gritted his teeth and said coldly, "I'll give them to you. However, if you're not willing to use your full strength, I can still kill you." Kiki. Disciples of the Tianming Haotsong sect, I've devoured many of you in the past. If I devour all of you, I will have a chance to surpass the Saint Realm. Death Law, Death Region Space. What an arrogant resurrection expert. He didn't take the 2 peerless experts of the Immortal Emperor realm seriously. The undead king used the death law to create a space in the ascension pool. It formed a shocking power of death that enveloped the 5 experts of the Tianming Haotsong sect. Even with Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi's powerful strength, they couldn't stop the death law from descending. Their life force was also rapidly declining, not to mention the 3 experts of the 9 Dao Saint realm. Such a powerful resurrection expert. Su Fong, you actually suppressed the resurrection expert of the Tranquility Emperor residence. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu was shocked. The appearance of the undead king was far beyond his expectations. Resurrection expert. Feng Wuzi also raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with seriousness. Qi. A gust of sword qi exploded from Feng Wuzi's body and tore a big hole in the undead king's death divine might. In the next moment, a giant sword formed by Xian Guang slashed at the undead king with a terrifying aura that could split the sky. Wherever it went, the death divine might was torn apart. Different from Dugumujian's destructive sword qi, Feng Wuzi's sword qi contained the will of the heavenly Tao. It was like the sword of the heavenly Tao with supreme dominance and a trace of the ruthlessness of the heavenly Tao. Once this sword was unleashed, all divine powers and shackles would be destroyed. The undead king activated his death divine power and stood next to Feng Wuzi. Su Fong secretly transmitted his voice. Undead king, retreat to the small worlds. The undead king fought as he retreated. He protected Su Fong and slowly moved down to the 5 small worlds below. You still want to leave? Heavenly Lord Xian Shu smiled hideously and also attacked. At this moment, Su Fang flipped his palm and took out the Xianming lightning scroll. At the same time, he used his primordial spirit to chant the life-shortening techniques Dao runes. A soundless clap of thunder rumbled as a wave of astounding thunder element divine might was released from the Xianming lightning scroll. Xianming lightning archive. An invisible and ethereal force locked onto Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. Fear filled Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's eyes. He had personally experienced the power of the Xianming lightning archive. He hadn't recovered from his injuries yet. He could barely maintain his peak 9th Dao Saint immortal realm with the help of a forbidden spell. Moreover, the threat that the Xianming lightning archive brought to Heavenly Lord Xian Shu was more than twice as terrifying as the last time. Once it was activated, it could definitely turn him into ashes. =_our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1411. This person is indeed extraordinary to be able to wield such a peerless Dao artifact. Feng Wuzi was also shocked. His eyes were filled with wariness and he stopped attacking. The other 3 9th Dao realm cultivators also sensed the power of the Xianming Thunder Seal and trembled in fear. Su Fang didn't actually wield the Xianming Thunder Seal. Instead, he slowly retreated back into the small worlds with the undead king. What should we do? Gudumu Jian and the other overlords gathered around. The Green Feather Emperor, Bai Ling, the other big goblin, Li Haojie, and the Lord of 5 Poisons were also very anxious. They had worked so hard to bring the 5 small worlds to the Ascension Pool, but they were stopped here by the peerless overlords of the Tianming Haotsang sect. They were facing destruction, which made them feel so insignificant. Tianming Haotsang sect, Su Fang's eyes were burning with anger. The opponents were too powerful. If there were only 2 peak-stage immortal emperors, Su Fang wouldn't be afraid. He would let the undead king deal with Feng Wuzi, while he used the Xianming Thunder Seal to deal with Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. As for the other 3 9th Dao realm overlords, no one could deal with them. With Su Fang's current strength, he could only wield the Xianming Thunder Seal once. The other Dao artifacts couldn't pose a fatal threat to the 9th Dao realm overlords. These 3 9th Dao realm overlords were Feng Wuzi's sword slave. It was obvious that Feng Wuzi had an extraordinary status in the Tianming Haotsang sect. Boom, boom, boom. Feng Wuzi and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu led the 3 golden-robed sword slaves to attack the world barriers of the 5 small worlds. The small worlds shook. The cultivators, civilians, and the big goblin in the small worlds were all terrified. What should we do? Everyone looked at Su Fang. The world barriers of the 5 small worlds. Each of them had its own world barrier, and the 5 small worlds were connected together equals n_1. After Su Fang's constant modifications over the years, it had become incomparably sturdy. Aside from the world's origin being enhanced by Su Fang's integration, Su Fang had also used the Demon Sealing Emperor's Heavenly Seal to create layers upon layers of formations. It must be known that the seals and formations created by the Demon Sealing Emperor's Heavenly Seal could even shackle Immortal Sovereign Song Huan and Demon Sovereign Ancient Netherworld. One could imagine how sturdy the formations that formed the world barrier were. It was also because of this that Su Fang dared to bring the small worlds to the great world. Otherwise, just the shackles on the heavenly road and the collision with matter could easily destroy the 5 small worlds. No matter how powerful Feng Wuzi and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu were, it was impossible for them to break through the world barrier in a short time. But after all, they were passively taking a beating. If this continued, there would be a day when they would be broken through. Let's stabilize the world barrier first. Su Fang released all the 300,000 elite troops that he brought into the small world this time and continuously injected true qi and demon power into the world barrier. This made the world barrier even sturdier. At least for a few years, Feng Wuzi and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu would not be able to break through. Calm down, I have to calm down. Su Fang took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled, calming himself down. His mind spun quickly, and he came up with countless countermeasures in a short time, but all of them were rejected by Su Fang. Looking at the bottom of the Ascension Pool's barrier, Su Fang suddenly had a flash of light in his mind. There's an idea that we can try. Su Fang displayed the calmness and decisiveness of an overlord. All of you stay in the small world and continuously inject true qi and demon power into the world barrier to ensure that the world barrier is not broken through. I will bring the immortal fiend monster to the barrier at the bottom of the Ascension Pool and lure the 3 saint immortals down there. We will use the barrier formed by the natural laws of the heavenly Tao and the divine shackles formed by the will of the heavenly Tao to kill them. As long as we can kill one of them, the pressure will be greatly reduced. If we can kill all 3 of them, we can completely turn the situation around. We can even kill Heavenly Lord Xian Shu or Feng Wuzi. Su Fang said confidently. According to Luo, the bottom of the Ascension Pool had a barrier formed by the natural laws of the heavenly Tao and the divine shackles formed by the will of the heavenly Tao. Even peak immortal emperors would be shackled after entering. However, Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster had an advantage that peak immortal emperors did not have. Su Fang's physical body was at the perfected level, and the immortal fiend monster's physical body was formed by the fusion of an immortal supremacy and a demon supremacy. It was also extremely powerful. In addition, Su Fang's world seed power, ethereal enlightenment divine power, and supreme sovereign divine power might not be able to resist the barrier formed by the natural laws of the heavenly Tao and the divine shackles, but he was confident that he would not be weaker than peak immortal emperors. The second primordial spirit had the primordial spirit divine power that was not shackled by any world and the primordial spirit power that could crush immortal emperors. With his second primordial spirit assisting him, he could even kill peak immortal emperors, let alone ordinary saint immortals. Fairy Xuanxin advised, if you do that, you will be forced into a desperate situation. It is too dangerous. You must not do that. We will think of another way. The Green Feather Emperor and Bai Ling also spoke up to stop Su Fang. Su Fang said decisively, there is no other way. This is the only way to resolve the crisis. It is indeed dangerous. Have I not experienced enough danger in the past? I have made up my mind. There is no need to persuade me anymore. Su Fang made a series of arrangements, especially for the undead king, who Su Fang purposely gave him a beating. At the same time, he also left behind a Bloodman clone. If the undead king had any thoughts of rebelling, he would immediately activate the imprints in his divine aperture and body to suppress him. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the attacks outside became even more violent. The 5 small worlds shook. The demon emperors and some buildings on the ground could not withstand the violent tremors and were all destroyed. Some of the weaker citizens were even shaken to death. Heavenly Lord Xianshu, Feng Wuzi, I will let you be happy for a while. The losses that Su Fang suffered now will be repaid with your lives. Second primordial spirit, let's go. Sensing the losses in the small worlds, Su Fang's eyes were frozen. Whoosh, whoosh. Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster passed through the array and flew out of the world barrier. They went straight to the bottom of the Ascension Pool. It is Su Fang and his subordinates. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu immediately discovered Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster. The bottom of the Ascension Pool is a dead end. How dare you run there? You are really desperate. You are courting death. Feng Wuzi sneered. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu was confused. Is this his plan to lure us away? He used his clone to lure us down while he stayed in the small worlds and took the opportunity to escape? That is possible. The 2 of you go in and kill him. Feng Wuzi immediately ordered 2 golden-robed sword slaves to chase after Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster. In Feng Wuzi's opinion, although Su Fang had a peerless Tao artifact, he was only in the 9th Tao realm of the world immortal realm. At most, he would sacrifice one sword slave. There was no way he could activate the Xianming lightning scroll a second time. The immortal fiend monster was at most in the 8th Dao realm of the Saint Immortal realm. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu knew how powerful the immortal fiend monster was. He advised, "Junior brother Feng Wuzi, that expert has an extremely powerful primordial spirit. The two sword slaves might be in danger." Feng Wuzi said disdainfully, "The two sword slaves are already giving them face. Since senior brother Xian Shu is worried, go attack the bottom of the small worlds and support the sword slaves at the same time." Whoosh! Gusts of air blew toward him. Su Fang activated the power of the world seed and stabilized himself. He kept going deeper into the small worlds. The spirit roots wrapped in bubbles were sent out from the bottom of the small world. Puff, puff. The bubbles collided with Su Fang's world aura and immediately shattered. The spirit roots were sucked into Su Fang's stomach by the world aura. The life force, immortal spirit qi, and a trace of profundity in the spirit roots did not need to be cultivated. They could be directly absorbed and turned into cultivation, cleansing the body and increasing the ability to understand the power of the large world. A small number of spirit roots were not very useful to immortals like Su Fang. However, after a certain number of spirit roots were accumulated, the effects were very obvious. After absorbing thousands of spirit roots, Su Fang felt that his true qi, body, and yang immortal were all changing little by little. Although it was not very obvious, it had an effect that even elixirs could not compare to. The small worlds were swept by the catastrophe. There were very few survivors, and even fewer cultivators who could ascend to the immortal world. Last time, Su Fang ordered to open the door to the large worlds from the ascension pool. Those who should have left had already left. Therefore, it was a waste to leave these spirit roots here. In the end, they might benefit those evil immortals who came to the ascension pool. Therefore, Su Fang did not hold back. He swallowed the spirit roots without restraint. The immortal fiend monster followed Su Fang and also swallowed the spirit root. Still not going to die? The two sword slaves rushed over. They were obviously much faster than Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster. Soon, they were less than 1,000 feet away. As expected, they sent two sword slaves over. "Let's go." Su Fang did not care about swallowing the spirit roots anymore. He suddenly released the Emperor's qi. Together with the purple cloud Dharma spirit and the power of the world seed, it formed a sovereign's divine aura that was above the heavenly Tao. It enveloped him and the immortal fiend monster. The pressure formed by the shackles around them suddenly weakened. Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster's speed also doubled. They shook off the two sword slaves. The deeper they went, the denser the layers of enchantments they encountered. The shackles also became stronger. So fast. The two sword slaves were shocked. They activated their divine aura and sped up their chase. Soon, 3 months had passed as the chase continued. With Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster's strength, they could barely move, let alone fly. Not only them, the two Saint Immortal Realm sword slaves behind them were even worse. It was already good enough that they could stabilize themselves and not be pushed back by the airflow. The bottom was still bottomless. Su Fang decided to stop. He and the immortal fiend monster continued to swallow the spirit roots to replenish their true qi. The two sword slaves were stunned when they saw their actions. Then they sneered. "How dare you swallow the spirit roots so recklessly? You're courting death." Why was that? The spirit roots in the ascension pool were formed by the heavenly Tao's natural laws. They were prepared for cultivators from the lower realm to ascend. This was the uniqueness of the heavenly Tao's operation. It not only suppressed cultivators who cultivated in defiance of the heavenly Tao, but it also gave cultivators the same opportunity. Su Fang and the immortal fiend monster's reckless swallowing of the spirit roots was equivalent to going against the heavenly Tao's will. Therefore, they were strongly rejected by the heavenly Tao. The shackles of the world would suddenly increase by several times. It was not impossible for them to be crushed directly. In the past, many immortals had descended to the lower realm. However, they had never dared to swallow the spirit roots recklessly in the ascension pool. It was a great taboo for immortals from the lower realm, who would be as daring as Su Fong and the immortal fiend monster, to not fear the rejection and shackles of the heavenly Tao. After swallowing more than 100,000 spirit roots, Su Fong was surprised to find that his cultivation realm had rapidly returned to its normal state. The speed of his improvement was shocking. Not only that, Su Fong felt enlightened after fusing with the spirit root's esoteric power. Many things that he did not understand in his cultivation in the past became clearer. He felt like he was suddenly enlightened. If he cultivated in seclusion for a period of time, he would definitely reap great benefit. =our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 14:12. Devouring the spirit roots wantonly gave Su Fong a lot of trouble at the same time. Shocking shackles kept attacking Su Fong and the immortal fiend monster, trying to crush them into powder. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong used the power of the world seed and the ethereal primordial realm to create his own space, but it was being crushed layer by layer. You want to suppress me, Su Fong, with such little shackles? Su Fong's eyes flashed with tenacity and an unyielding gaze. He simply used his divine power to defend himself and used his physical body to resist the terrifying, repulsive, and shackling power from the heavenly Tao. Crack, crack, crack. His flesh, bones, and meridians emitted bursts of explosive sounds as if they were about to fall apart at any time. Occasionally, his flesh would collapse, and his bones and meridians would break. The Black Lotus true body and the dragon taming wood left arm gave him astonishing recovery abilities. Furthermore, the netherworld sea of blood allowed him to constantly switch between his physical body and his blood. The natural shackles and pressure of the heavenly Tao were unable to cause him any substantial harm. On the contrary, Su Fong used the heavenly Tao shackles and pressure at the bottom of the ascension pool to temper his physical body. At this moment, Su Fong was like a piece of iron that was constantly being smelted in a furnace. The higher the temperature of the furnace, the higher the quality of the iron that was smelted. By the same logic, under normal circumstances, the shackles of the heaven Tao that were extremely difficult to cultivate for Su Fong's fleshly body at the perfection stage and were lethal to Saint Immortal Realm cultivators had instead become a formidable assistance to Su Fong's cultivation. His perfect realm physical body was transforming bit by bit, becoming even more perfect. The various powers contained in the large number of spirit roots that he had devoured also perfectly fused with his physical body under the immense pressure. As for the immortal fiend monster, with the strength of his physical body, it could not cause any harm to him at all. When the two sword slaves saw this scene, they couldn't help but be extremely shocked. They wanted to go and kill Su Fong and the immortal fiend monster. After using their supreme abilities, they forced themselves to take a few steps forward. In the end, their momentum was shattered, and they spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and retreated into the distance. Until a month had passed, the spirit roots that were spurting out from the bottom became fewer and fewer. Su Fong felt that his physical body seemed to have reached saturation with the power contained in the spirit roots, and continuing to devour them would not have much effect. Second primordial spirit, do it. Boom. Su Fong's physical body instantly shattered and turned into a pool of blood. He was swept away by the natural power of the heavenly Tao like a fountain of blood. The fiend god monster seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure as well. It spat out a mouthful of blood, and its aura suddenly became weak. Its body was swept away and rolled towards the two-sword servant. You dare to devour the spirit root? You've finally received your retribution, haven't you? Ha ha. Truly courting death. This is for the best. We brothers don't have to make a move, and we'll have contributed greatly to master. One of the sword slaves roared with laughter and was extremely complacent. The other sword slave revealed a puzzled expression. In the next moment, the divine light in his eyes instantly changed as he cried out in alarm, "Wait! Be careful!" However, it was too late. The blood that Su Fang had transformed into suddenly expanded explosively into a torrent of blood, and it relied on the natural repulsive force of the Heaven Tao to charge over with a surging momentum before sweeping the two sword servants within the blood. At the same time, the second primordial spirit shot out from the fiend god monster's physical body and hit the glabella of one of the sword servants. While the sword servant was unprepared, the second primordial spirit forcefully and overbearingly broke through the defense of the sword servant's divine aperture and charged into the sea of divine apertures to fight with the primordial spirit of the sword servant. The torrent of blood that Su Fang had transformed into swirled and formed a whirlpool of blood, and a powerful devouring force formed a shackle that shrouded the two sword servants. The strength of these two sword slaves was extremely powerful as well. One of them was exhausted by the second primordial spirit to deal with the attacks in the sea of divine apertures and was unable to take care of its physical body. However, the other sword servant unleashed a burst of aura that shook the yellow spring blood sea to the point that it kept rolling in the surroundings, forming a vacuum area of 1,000 feet around its body. Then, it was about to escape towards the top of the ascension pool. Whoosh! A bloody man Su Fang quickly condensed in the whirlpool of blood. He struck out a Tao artifact, and a bolt of lightning that contained the will of heavenly punishment burst out. Rumble! The lightning punishment cauldron's lightning struck the sword servant who was about to escape at lightning speed. The lightning punishment cauldron was a damaged Tao artifact. Its grade had dropped and was not even on par with the 10 great Tao artifact. However, it contained the most violent and powerful lightning energy among all the various energies. Moreover, it was heavenly lightning, so its power was not to be underestimated. However, the sword servant's strength was extraordinary as well. He was a peerless powerhouse at the 9 Tao Saint celestial stage. He was definitely a supreme existence who stood at the peak of the celestial realm. When he was struck by the lightning punishment cauldron, only his defensive divine ability was shattered, and his physical body was not seriously injured. Since Su Fang was prepared since the beginning, he naturally wouldn't only have this little bit of ability. After he activated the lightning tribulation cauldron, white flames suddenly blazed within the nether spring sea of blood, and it instantly transformed into a sea of flames that completely engulfed the two sword servants. Fire Cloud True Form, 9 Celestial Fire. The sword servant, who was bitterly resisting the second soul formation's terrifying soul formation attack, was attacked from both inside and outside. He immediately let out a blood-curdling scream as his physical body was severely injured by the sea of fire. His soul formation also lost its defense and was mercilessly devoured by the second soul formation. The other sword servant cried out in pain in the sea of fire. He repeatedly circulated his true chi in an attempt to burn away the 9 celestial fire. However, the 9 celestial fire was the most domineering fire in the celestial realm. At this moment, the sword servant's body was being corroded by the celestial fire in the sea of fire. At this moment, the second soul formation returned to the celestial fiend monster's body and released the yin-yang fiend god scissors. With a crack, the sword servant's head was severed from his neck. Two peerless powerhouses at the 9 Tao Saint celestial stage had fallen just like that. It was not that they were weak, but the environment here had shackled the power of their divine abilities. On the other hand, Su Fang's yellow spring blood sea and fire cloud true form were not restricted at all. The second soul formation's divine ability was also not affected at all. This was why the two powerhouses were easily killed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The blood water condensed into two corpses. Looking at the two corpses, Su Fang was very happy. These were two corpses at the 9 Tao Saint celestial stage. The life essence contained in them was not something that ordinary cultivators could compare with. Even Tranquility Emperor was far inferior. Moreover, killing these two powerhouses at the 9 Tao Saint Celestial stage meant that the unfavorable situation had finally been turned around. It was even possible for them to turn the tables. After storing the corpses into his body, Su Fang smiled coldly. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu, Feng Wuzi, it's time for you to receive your retribution. At this moment, Luo suddenly said, Su Fang, have you forgotten about the celestial spirit root? How could I forget about such an important thing? Su Fang patted his head. If he could find the celestial spirit root, the celestial fiend monster would recover some of its strength and be able to contend with a peak immortal emperor. In this way, his chances of winning would be greater. Immediately, he said to the celestial fiend monster, Second soul, I'll stay here. You go to the bottom and see if you can find the celestial spirit root. The power of the primordial spirit can finally be put to use. The second primordial spirit said coldly. Then, it shot out from the forehead of the celestial fiend monster. It passed through layers of enchantments and disappeared without a trace. The terrifying force of the enchantment could not restrain it at all. Su Fang brought the celestial fiend monster's corpses and flew up for another 1,000 feet. This way, the force of the enchantment was much weaker. Then, he sat down cross-legged to cultivate. He digested the understanding of the law of heaven from the devouring spiritual root. At the same time, Su Fang also left a young immortal to pay attention to the movements in the ascension pool. Once the small world was in danger, he would immediately call back the second primordial spirit and kill his way back at all costs. About half a year passed. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were clear like the starry sky, vast and incomparably deep. After devouring so many spiritual roots and cultivating for such a long time, Su Fang naturally had a deeper understanding of the law of heaven. Many of the problems that he had encountered in his cultivation in the past were now resolved. It was a pity that the profound power contained in these ordinary spiritual roots was too shallow. It allowed Su Fang to have a deeper understanding of the way of heaven, but he was unable to reach a new height. However, with the help of the shackles of the law of heaven, his corpses had transformed again. The power of the spiritual roots was also perfectly integrated with his corpses. In a short period of time, his cultivation was about to reach the peak of the 9th Tao realm. If I can find the celestial spirit root, there will definitely be a huge breakthrough. At the same time, it will be of great help to my cultivation of the 9 truths 9 suns, heavenly secret life shrinking technique, ethereal truth, netherworld reincarnation technique, and other cultivation technique. Su Fang was filled with anticipation. He continued to wait patiently for the second primordial spirit. Another month passed by. Swoosh! A black Xian Guang, wrapped in a bubble, flew rapidly from below and arrived in front of Su Fang in an instant. In the bubble, there was a 3-foot-long finger-like object. It was somewhat similar to a spiritual root, but it was not transformed from the Xian Guang. It was a corporeal existence. The finger was sparkling and translucent, exuding a milky white luster. It was densely covered with incomparably mysterious immortal marks. Of course, it was not man-made but naturally formed. This is the celestial spirit root? Su Fang's eyes suddenly burst with a terrifying light. The voice from the blood jade in Luo's body was clearly excited. That's right, this is the celestial spirit root. Su Fang, your luck is so good that it defies the natural order. It is difficult for even one celestial spirit root to be born in 10,000 ascension pools in the macro world, but you easily found one. Your luck is so good that it makes me jealous. Luo, my luck did not come out of nowhere. It is the supreme luck brought to me by the purple Qi Dharma spirit and the supreme Qi. After dealing with Lord of Heaven Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi, I must get the last small part of the purple Qi Dharma spirit as soon as possible. By then, my luck and the ability to control Dharma treasures will reach new heights. Su Fang was overjoyed and could not wait to use the great perfection ability to sense the celestial spirit root. There was a majestic life force in the celestial spirit root that Su Fang had never felt before. It was much more abundant than the thunder ginseng blood nascent pill. Moreover, it did not contain the pure immortal qi of a spiritual root, but an aura similar to the divine essence pill. It was a power that only existed in the universe. There was also a mysterious and empty aura in the celestial spirit root, which contained the profound power of the heavenly Tao. Luo said, "You can strip the divine power from the celestial spirit root, then let the immortal demon monster devour the celestial spirit root. After it has absorbed the life force in it, then let the second primordial spirit merge with your original body. This way, you will be able to obtain the profound power in the celestial spirit root." That's right. Since I have obtained the celestial spirit root, I might as well let the immortal demon monster break through and then kill Lord of Heaven Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi in one fell swoop. Once and for all, no one in this immortal realm will be able to contend with me. Su Fang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He immediately used his divine power and followed Luo's suggestion to strip the divine power, then seal the energy and store it in the crucible transformation. After the crisis was resolved, he would use it to break through to the saint immortal realm. The celestial spirit root that had lost its divine power instantly lost its luster and was swallowed by the immortal demon monster. Su Fang sat cross-legged on the spot, waiting for the immortal demon monster to devour the life force in the celestial spirit root. =R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1413. Time passed quickly, and 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Inside the Ascension Pool, under the continuous attacks of Heavenly Lord Xian Shu, Feng Wuzi, and a sword slave, the world barrier of the 5 small worlds finally showed signs of breaking. Although the world barrier had neutralized most of the power of the attack, the shockwave still caused great damage to the insides of the 5 small worlds. Other than the palace in the mortal emperor world, almost all the other buildings in the small worlds were damaged. The caves, palaces, and dojos where the cultivators lived were slightly better, but the houses where the civilians lived were all turned into dust. There were also many casualties among the cultivators and civilians. They were in a state of fear and despair all day long. They kept staring at the world barrier, afraid that it would break completely one day. Other than the dead lord, who was still very relaxed, Dugu Mujian and the other masters, as well as Su Fang's subordinates in the large worlds, were all exhausted, but they still took turns to inject true qi and demonic qi into the world barrier. Why isn't Master back yet? Did something happen at the bottom of the Ascension Pool? On one hand, they were worried about the small worlds, but on the other hand, they were anxious about Su Fang. The dead lord smiled eerily. It's best if Su Fang dies down there. That way, I'll have a chance to rise. How can a mere clone control me? The blood man clone sitting cross-legged in the palace in the mortal emperor world suddenly opened his eyes and spoke to Dugumujian and the other immortal emperors. I've already killed the 2 sword slaves and obtained a great opportunity. After a few more months, I and my second primordial spirit will come back. I'm confident that I can kill Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi in one fell swoop. Everyone was instantly energized and their morale soared. Only the dead lord had to suppress the rebellious thoughts in his heart. Outside the world barrier. Damn it. I can destroy a planetary region, but I can't do anything to 5 small worlds. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's face was as dark as a rock, and his eyes were filled with anxiety. He had originally thought that with him and Feng Wuzi attacking, they would only need 1 strike to destroy the 5 small worlds. Who would have thought that after attacking for so long, not only did they use the heavenly mandate Haotsang Sek's ultimate divine ability, but they also used their Tao artifact. The world barrier was still as stable as a rock. He had forcefully restored his cultivation base to the peak of the 9th Tao Saint celestial stage using the Heaven Mandate Bright Firmament Sect's forbidden technique. If he continued to persist, not only would it be difficult for him to maintain his cultivation base, but his cultivation base might even drop forever. How could he not be anxious? Moreover, the two sword slaves who had gone to kill Su Fang and the immortal demon monster had also not returned. Due to the influence of the barrier and shackles, it was difficult to sense whether they were alive or dead. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu wanted to go down and help, but when he thought of the Xianming Thunder Archive in Su Fang's hands, he had to give up the idea. This tortoise shell is indeed hard enough. Feng Wuzi nodded. Then, the divine light in Feng Wuzi's eyes pierced through the world barrier and saw the terrified cultivators and civilians in the small world. He revealed a cruel smile and said coldly, "Senior brother Xianshu, don't you think it's very interesting to see these ants struggling and wailing in despair?" Heavenly Lord Xianshu smiled bitterly and then revealed a ruthless expression. "Once this tortoise shell is broken, I'll skin everyone in the 5 small worlds." Feng Wuzi continued, "Senior brother, don't be anxious. The world barrier of the small worlds won't last much longer. After helping senior brother completely solve the problem here, I'll go look for Zhang Ruoyun." Heavenly Lord Xian Shu said in surprise, "Zhang Ruoyun? The peerless genius of the gluttonous celestial sect who is famous in the immortal realm and owns the immortal Jia Gate?" "That's right, it's that girl." Feng Wuzi's eyes were filled with admiration. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu said curiously, "Although the gluttonous celestial sect is considered a first-rate force in the immortal realm, it's far inferior to our Heaven Mandate Bright Firmament sect. Since junior brother Feng Wuzi likes this girl, why don't you ask the sect to propose a marriage alliance and become Tao companions with her? Do you think the gluttonous celestial sect dares to refuse?" Feng Wuzi shook his head and said, "Senior brother, you only know one thing and don't know the other. If it was before, I would naturally ask the sect to step in. If they refused, I would directly destroy the gluttonous celestial sect. But now, Zhang Ruoyun has found a great backer and has been taken in as the last disciple of the Xia celestial supremacy. The Xia celestial supremacy is a supreme existence standing at the peak of the great worlds, and the sect doesn't dare to force her." "I see. But with junior brother Feng Wuzi's talent, Zhang Ruoyun will become junior brothers sooner or later. I spent a lot of effort to find out about Zhang Ruoyun. I don't know why, but not long ago she came to this desolate, immortal realm with the Xia celestial supremacy. If I can have a chance encounter with her, So junior apprentice brother has come to this immortal region for this woman. Let's help senior brother solve the problem here first." What followed was an even more ferocious attack. The 5 small worlds were on the verge of collapsing under the terrifying attacks of the great divine ability. At the bottom of the ascension pool, Su Fang, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating, suddenly felt a movement in his body. It was a big movement. This movement came from the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. The 36th meridian that was being attacked was about to be successfully born as a yang meridian. The birth of the 36th yang meridian meant that the 9 yang 9 transformations had stepped into the 4th transformation. Therefore, this yang meridian was very important. Not only did it require the accumulation of yang qi, but it also required a great opportunity. Nearly 200 years had passed since the birth of the 35th yang meridian. It was the longest time Su Fang had spent cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations to form a yang meridian. He had accumulated enough, and the only thing he lacked was an opportunity. This time, Su Fang finally grasped a great opportunity. The opportunity to form the 36th yang meridian naturally came from the celestial spirit root. However, it was not because of yang qi, but because of the comprehension of the 9 yang 9 transformations technique. The immortal fiend monster used about 2 years to devour the vitality of the celestial spirit root. Then, its second primordial spirit merged with the main body. This way, Su Fang obtained the profound power within. As if enlightened, Su Fang comprehended the profound power of nature of the heavenly Tao. He felt enlightened about the 9 Yang 9 transformations, the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, the ethereal true explanation, and other cultivation technique. It was as if he was standing at the peak of a mountain and looking down below, reaching a new height. Su Fang mainly focused on the 9 Yang 9 transformations. The 9 Yang 9 transformations was Su Fang's divine mirror cultivation technique. At this moment, Su Fang could already control the origin sacred mirror and suppress a 9 Dao realm expert like the Dead Lord. If he could reach the 4th transformation and use the mirror, what could Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi do? Of course, the prerequisite was that he could use the mirror to attack cultivators. His comprehension of the cultivation technique had reached a new height. Not only did it make it easier to circulate the Yang Qi in the 35th meridian, but the heaven and earth Tao wheel also underwent a drastic change due to his deep understanding of the cultivation technique. The 36th Yang meridian was about to be born. Sizzle! After Su Fang gathered all the energy in his body and attacked repeatedly, the 36th Yang meridian was finally successfully formed. A shocking 9 Yang flame burned in the 36th meridian. It was no longer an ordinary meridian, but a jade-like Yang meridian. Then, Su Fang activated all the pure Yang Qi in the Yang meridian. At the same time, he also absorbed the 9 Yin frost Qi from the origin sacred realm. Like a surging river, it surged into the newly born Yang meridian with a roaring momentum. The 36th Yang meridian was born. The 28th to 36th Yang meridian formed the 4th transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformations, the Yang meridian. It was not over yet. Just like the 2nd and 3rd transformations, the 9th Yang meridian of the 4th transformation shifted. The 36th Yang meridian fused together to form a more complicated, profound, and mysterious spiral Yang Qi pattern. After the Yang meridian vortex calmed down, the Yang energy in the 36th Yang meridian fused with the true energy inside of him. First, it went through minor circulations, then major circulations before being absorbed by the world seed. The world seed immediately gave off a resplendent light. It was like a star in the Milky Way, and it spun a bit faster. After the world seed's lotus pod shattered, it turned into clouds and mist that floated around the world seed. The power of the world of yin and yang within the world seed now contained a bit of godliness, as if it were the power of a god. The entire heaven and earth Tao palace was bathed in the light of godliness, and the profound underworld lightning scroll and the Yellow Springs reincarnation sword were both trembling. However, the origin sacred mirror didn't move at all. That was how the most consummate god items were. The 9 Yang 9 transformations is finally in the 4th transformation, Su Fang said, clenching his fists in excitement. The 9 Yang 9 transformations was a godly class energy art, and anyone who cultivated a Yang meridian would be significantly stronger. Therefore, it was only natural that the 4th transformation would be shocking. After the 4th transformation, his overall strength increased tremendously once more. Whether it was activating the world seed, controlling the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, or controlling magic treasures and mana, all of them increased by nearly 10 times. His cultivation speed had undergone another great transformation. That wasn't all. The Yang meridian was also a fire meridian and a lightning meridian, and as a result, the fire-type godliness and lightning-type godliness within the Yang meridian had undergone major transformations. Power of tribulation lightning. Su Fang drew on his Yang meridian and the lightning-type power within his fleshly body, causing violet gold lightning to flicker around him. He looked like a domineering god of lightning, pulsing with terrifying lightning-type godliness that seemed to contain the will of the Tao of heaven. With a punch, the power of the thunder punishment transformed into a bolt of lightning, shattering the surrounding enchantments. It rumbled and extended for thousands of feet before gradually weakening. He didn't need any lightning-type divine abilities or Dao items. That fist strike alone was enough to kill a 6 Dao Sage Immortal, and could even threaten a 7 Dao Sage Immortal. Then he drew on his fire cloud true body. Boom! Su Fong turned into a sea of fire and swept out. The surrounding aegis melted and shattered by the domineering Nine Suns' celestial fire. The power of the Nine Suns' celestial fire and fire cloud true body has nearly doubled again, but it's still less than 1/10,000th of the Nine Suns' true fire from the origin sacred mirror. After reaching the 4th transformation, I should be able to further control the mirror. Even if it's just a little bit more, it'll still be extremely powerful. It'll be easier to suppress resurrected powerhouses like the Undead Lord, but I wonder if it can be used against cultivators. Su Fong then drew on his Nine Suns' 9 transformations divine abilities: Giant Diamond Body, Titan Palm, and Indestructible Golden Body. His giant form was more than 200 feet tall, like the legendary god of war, and he had the aura of a god. The Titan Palm focused on offense, while the Indestructible Golden Body focused on defense. With one attacking and one defending, and the Giant Diamond Body, Su Fong was confident that he could kill a 9 Dao Sage Immortal with one palm strike. The only drawback was that using the Giant Diamond Body consumed too much true qi, so he couldn't use it for a long time. Second Primordial Spirit, how's your body recovering? Su Fong asked as he looked at the demonic god monster sitting cross-legged not far away. A sharp and cold light flashed in his eyes. It was time to get out of here and take care of Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi. _R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1414. The second primordial spirit said coldly, "The time is too short. The life force in the celestial spirit root has not fully merged with it. My physical body has not recovered by 10%. However, I already have the strength to fight against a peak stage immortal emperor. Combined with the primordial spirit's divine power, I can kill a peak stage immortal emperor." Very good. Heaven Lord Xian Shu's body was related to the whereabouts of a blood jade. Su Fong could not let him escape this time. It was easy to defeat a peak stage immortal emperor, but not so easy to kill. To prevent Heaven Lord Xian Shu from escaping like last time, Su Fong made thorough preparations this time. First, he took out the sword slave whose physical body was still in good condition and let the second primordial spirit live in it. Then, he let the second primordial spirit leave a seal on the original body. Finally, he put away the monster's physical body and flew toward the Ascension Pool with the weakened Su Fong. In the Ascension Pool, boom! Under the joint attack of 2 peak-stage Immortal Emperors and a 9-stage Saint Immortal Realm Sword Slave, a huge hole finally appeared in the sturdy world barrier. "Su Fong, this time I will capture you and your small world in one fell swoop." Ha ha ha! Heavenly Lord Xian Shu laughed heartily. His gray eyes were filled with cruelty. Suddenly a golden-robed sword slave flew out from the bottom of the Ascension Pool with Su Fong. "Master, Su Fong has already been captured alive by this subordinate. The experts under him have also been killed." The golden-robed sword slave shot out a corpse from his palm. It was the corporeal body of the immortal fiend monster. Then, he shot out a mystic light which swept Su Fong and the immortal fiend monster towards Feng Wuzi and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. "Captured Su Fong? Good, good, good. You have done a great job this time. Junior brother Feng Wuzi will definitely reward you handsomely." Ha ha! Heaven Lord Xian Shu changed his usual stone-like appearance and laughed ferociously. After that, he took a step forward and charged directly towards Su Fong. His eyes were filled with greed and excitement, and his heart was filled with the peerless Tao artifact in Su Fong's possession. As for the fiend god monster and the gold-robed sword servant, he didn't take them seriously at all. A hint of confusion flashed through Feng Wuzi's eyes, and then he shouted, "Senior brother Xianshu, be careful, there's a trap." As expected of a peerless genius of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, he actually sensed the abnormality on the golden-robed sword slave and immediately saw through Su Feng's scheme. Heavenly Lord Xianshu was stunned. At this moment, the seal on Su Feng's body was broken. Chi. Su Feng's body flickered with a large amount of dazzling golden electric currents. His muscles and bones began to grow in reverse, and in an instant, he became over 200 feet tall, looking like a majestic god of war. Giant diamond body. Clang. His arms shook, and he slapped out 2 giant golden palm prints in the air. With a terrifying divine power that could shatter the sky, they crushed towards Heavenly Lord Xianshu. After reaching the 4th transformation of the 9 Suns' 9 transformations, Su Feng activated the giant diamond body. Not only did it become extremely powerful, but its speed was also completed in a flash. Heavenly Lord Xianshu was a peak immortal emperor after all, and his reaction wasn't slow. After a short moment of shock, he immediately activated his divine power, and his body turned into stone. A strange petrification power spread out, forming a defense. Who knew that the 2nd primordial spirit would shoot out from between the golden-robed sword slave's eyebrows and hit the back of Heavenly Lord Xianshu's head? Heavenly Lord Xianshu's divine aperture ocean was violently attacked by the divine power of the primordial spirit, and his defense was almost shattered. Bang bang! The 2 golden palm prints formed by the Herculean divine palm hit Heavenly Lord Xianshu one after another, and sent him flying like a fly. Due to the primordial spirit attack, Heavenly Lord Xianshu's defensive divine power was also affected, and it was shattered by the 1st palm print. Then, his physical body was hit by the 2nd palm print, which contained terrifying divine power. It immediately shattered his physical defense, and his physical body was severely injured. His bones cracked and shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood along with pieces of his internal organs. His aura immediately weakened. His old injuries hadn't healed, and now, it was one disaster after another. Heavenly Lord Xianshu couldn't maintain his peak level of the 9 Dao Saint Immortal Realm anymore, and his cultivation level dropped rapidly. After the 2nd primordial spirit attacked Heavenly Lord Xianshu's divine aperture ocean, it returned to the immortal demon monster's physical body, stepped out, and punched again. Before Heavenly Lord Xianshu could stabilize himself, he was severely injured and couldn't activate any divine power. The immortal demon monster's fist landed on his heart, shattering it. His body flew out like a kite with a string. From Su Feng's sudden attack to Heavenly Lord Xianshu being severely injured and dying, it only took a breath's time. Su Feng and the immortal demon monster's close cooperation was flawless. In such a short time, Feng Wuzi didn't have time to save him. Seeing Heavenly Lord Xianshu on the verge of death, Feng Wuzi let out an earth-shattering roar. "How dare you injure my senior brother? I'll turn you into ashes." Then, he formed a seal, and an aura burst out, forming a shocking sword light. It was like the sword of heaven, slashing towards Su Feng. The only remaining golden-robed sword slave also took out a peak supreme-grade flying sword and attacked Su Feng. "You should think about your own life first." Su Feng sneered disdainfully. The immortal demon monster used the yin-yang immortal demon scissors, which collided with Feng Wuzi's sword light, causing a huge explosion. The entire ascension pool shook, and countless enchantments were shattered. Su Feng withdrew from the giant Vajra body state, took out the Xianming Thunder Archive, and used the Thunder of Destiny to activate the Peerless Tao artifact. When they sensed the ethereal and misty energy that locked onto fate and the world-shocking lightning element divine might that erupted from the Netherism lightning scroll, the expression of the golden-robed sword servant instantly went grim, and he revealed an expression of terror and despair as he turned around and intended to tear through the sky and flee. Crack! Lightning struck out rapidly, and the dazzling white lightning exploded like the sun, blocking out all light. The natural laws of heaven and earth in the Ascension Pool were shattered by the terrifying divine power of the Xianming Thunder Archive. The golden-robed sword slave was shattered along with the space around it, turning into ashes. A huge black hole formed in the collapsed space, spreading rapidly in all directions like the mouth of a monster. The power of the Xianming Thunder Archive was just that, domineering and terrifying. Feng Wuzi and the immortal demon monster were also affected. They had to stop fighting and use their divine power to protect themselves. Seeing the power of the Xianming Thunder Archive, Feng Wuzi's eyes were filled with shock and even extreme fear. What he didn't know was that Su Feng could already use more than 60% of the Xianming Thunder Archive's power. He had only used 40% of the Xianming Thunder Archive's power to kill this 9th Dao Saint immortal expert. If Su Feng didn't care about the price and used all his strength to activate the Xianming Thunder Archive, he was confident that he could kill Feng Wuzi. However, the price would be too great. After using the Xianming Thunder Archive, Su Feng had used up about a tenth of his lifespan, and he looked like he was 25 or 26 years old. Such a consumption was completely within his acceptable range. The 5 minor worlds were in a state of shock. Since the world barrier had been breached, everyone in the 5 minor worlds thought that they wouldn't be able to escape death this time, and all of them fell into despair. Su Feng's sudden appearance and killing of a peak immortal emperor expert in a split second caused everyone to be unable to react. Now that he had used the Xianming Thunder Archive to kill a 9th Dao Saint immortal expert, everyone was shocked and surprised. Su Feng said majestically in the direction of the 5 minor worlds, "Undead Lord, why haven't you made your move yet? Are you waiting for me to settle the score with you after autumn?" The Undead Lord had planned to take the opportunity to slip away, but when he saw Su Feng and the immortal demon monster displaying such terrifying strength, he completely extinguished that thought. He flew out of the world barrier, unleashed his aura, and joined forces with the immortal demon monster to attack Feng Wuzi. Su Feng kept the half-dead heavenly lord of Xian Shu and the golden-robed sword slave's corpses into the crucible transformation world within his body. He then flew to the minor worlds and struck with the demon sealing emperor's heavenly seal. At the same time, he activated the power of the world seed to restore the shattered world barrier. "Master is mighty!" The Vermilion Emperor was the first to shout excitedly. "Master is mighty!" The experts, Big Goblin, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers under him all roared together like a tsunami. Only then did the cultivators and civilians in the minor worlds come to their senses. They immediately rose from despair to the peak of excitement. Loud cheers filled the air. Some people fainted immediately due to excessive excitement after being nervous for a long time. Fairy Xuanxin flew to Su Feng's side and smiled. All her worries turned into nothingness. Looking at the haggard Fairy Xuanxin, Su Feng's heart ached and he held her hand. Over there, the world-shaking battle had already shown a one-sided situation. The Undead Lord was the strongest person of the evil path in the past. He was a peerless figure who had reached the peak of the minor world. Although he was resurrected many years after his death with the help of the changes in heaven and earth, his cultivation base had dropped, and his strength was no longer what it used to be. However, his mastery of nature and the Tao of death was still there. With his current strength at the peak of the 9th Tao Saint immortal realm, he completely suppressed Feng Wuzi. After the immortal fiend monster fused with a portion of the heavenly spirit root's life force, its strength had transformed again. It was close to the peak of the 9th Tao Saint immortal realm. Coupled with its powerful physical body and the strange power of immortal fiend fusion, its combat strength was no weaker than the Undead Lord's. Under the combined attacks of the immortal fiend monster and the Undead Lord, Feng Wuzi no longer had the peerless demeanor of the Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sek. He retreated step by step and struggled to hold on with all his strength. Boom! Feng Wuxi's defensive aura field was first shattered by the Immortal Fiend monster's punch. The power of Immortal Fiend fusion caused his true qi to be unable to circulate smoothly. Then, the undead lord struck his shoulder with a finger imbued with the law of death. Half of his body was covered in a layer of gray, and his body was continuously corroded by the death qi and the law of death contained in the death qi. This peerless genius of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect was on the verge of serious injury. Feng Wuxi was shocked and furious. Stop! Su Feng, I am a special disciple of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect. My master is a peerless immortal supremacy. If you dare to kill me, my master and the entire Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect will never let you off. Su Feng sneered. You and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu came aggressively to kill me, but I can't kill you. Is this the logic of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect? The Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect represents the will of the Heavenly Tao. It controls Haotsong and leads the immortal Tao. Who dares to go against it? You can only be a tyrant in this desolate immortal domain. Offending the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect is naturally deserving of death. However, with the strength you've displayed now, you have the right to receive my recognition and be allowed to become the overlord of this immortal domain. That should do, right? Even in such a situation, Feng Wuxi was still extremely arrogant and domineering. I, Su Feng, do not need your recognition, much less the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect's recognition. Kill him. Su Feng's voice was filled with dominance and cold killing intent. At this moment, an ethereal voice suddenly sounded in the Ascension Pool. Feng Wuxi, you can't kill him. The blood jade in Luo Zai's body suddenly warned loudly. The one coming is a peerless immortal supremacy. Be careful. Download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review.